a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
It is a period of civil war. Rebel spaceships striking from a hidden base have won their first victory against the evil Galactic Empire. During the battle, Rebel spies managed to steal secret plans through the Empire. Death Star, an armored space station with enough power to destroy an entire planet. Pursued by the Empire's sinister agents, Princess Leia races home aboard her starship, custodian of the stolen plans that can save her people and restore freedom to the galaxy. All right, what is up, Bombad family? This is your boy, the Canon Junkie, Jerry, and my goodness, here we are already, part 4 of this Skywalker saga of the Bombad Buildup, A New Hope. My goodness, we have a special show in store for you guys today. And before I go any further, I'm going to go ahead and bring in my lovely co-host, the one and only Scotty Jaro. Scotty, how you doing, my man?
I'm pretty shocked. It's one of those things, like, I remember, talking about this in theory. I didn't think we'd make it this far. And the night we're recording this, just to brief everyone, is the night of before The Mandalorian drops. So you've got
Mando Eve.
You've got
Mando
three
Eve,
grown men, like, probably more excited than they have been in a long time for this for a TV show to come out. Like, this is crazy. And I guess without further ado, the first person I thought of, if we're going to do a Bombad build-up, I want to talk to someone who obviously knows their stuff about the movies, but also loves this movie with a passion, the movie that got him started in his love. We've got a great guest. I'm talking about the newest member of the One and Only Club. Yes, the newest member of the Bombad fam. And yes, a good friend of the Bombadcast. I'm talking about Alex, the Demon Damon of Star Wars Explained. What is up, Alex?
Hey, I don't really get the demon thrown out as often as maybe I should. I don't. I still don't really know where that nickname came from.
Neither did I.
Probably Harloff, most likely.
Oh, yeah, I just don't know why. Like, the first time I came out on the Schmoedown, he called me the Explainer. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
That's
and
good.
the second time, I walked out and he called me the demon. And I was like, oh,
whoa,
okay.
Yeah, a little bit more formidable than the Explainer, maybe, I guess. I don't know. You're a force to be reckoned with in the Schmoedown, too, when it comes to the Star Wars section, So I would give you Demon. I'd give you Demon.
I appreciate that, I guess. Maybe a Deveronian.
There you go.
What about Dathomirian? Dathomirian, David.
Close. That's good too.
I keep suggesting these things to Christian, and it's just a mouthful, I guess.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I really can't wait for the next Schmoedown. And it's so weird to think we have a former guest of the pod going to be now going against a present guest of the pod. It's just, I didn't expect this to happen. I don't know who I'm going to go for. It's weird. With the Bombadcast is torn between these two amazing contestants.
You can root for Laura. I'm rooting for Laura.
You're just tired of going to these
I want to win, but like I hope she wins too. I don't know.
There you go. Yeah, participation trophies all around. There we go.
I mean, it's funny. Like, this is like kind of transitioning a little bit based on something I want to mention about this show in particular. I am so happy to have you here, Alex. We've always talked and stuff through Twitter, and we hung out at Celebration a handful of times, and it's like I thought I should reach out, and I'm glad we're here doing this, man. Thank you. And before we get started, I want to, I guess, thank you for really kind of getting Jerry and I going back with our Star Wars love. I remember watching you in 2017, and I'm like, you know what? This dude's got it. I'm gonna 100% be a Patreon, and it's been great since. So,
well, thanks, man.
You kicked it off.
Well, I mean, you were just immediately so much fun to talk to online. So it's you're just the kind of Star Wars fan that I hope subscribe to me.
Yeah, well, that's good. No, hope that's the thing. I know with so many subscribers, I'm sure there's a handful of them that are not the most ideal, but that's the joy of doing this. You've got people that are gonna be there for you at your highs and your lows, and I don't know. I'm just excited to be talking about this movie in particular with you. It's gonna be awesome. But
I'm a fan. I'm a fan of this movie.
Yeah, from what I've heard. Could you imagine seeing this movie in 1977? Like really, like Jerry, what I couldn't even picture myself being in a world without this, right? Like being born into this world, this has always been there. I just couldn't even picture what that theater would have been like, the sound, the first everything. I mean, what do you think of it?
I don't know, man. And I know I'm a little bit older than you and stuff. And Alex, I don't know how old you are, man. I was born in the late '80s.
Me too.
So I still haven't known of a world where there isn't Star Wars. It's just it's mind blowing. And just watching this the other night, trying to cram for this final, gosh, I wish that I was able to watch this at the age I'm at now a little bit, or at least, or even 12 years old, and to see that Star Destroyer fly over your head in a packed movie theater. That had to be, I don't know, that is such a transcendent, had to be such a transcendent feeling. But I don't know, we've got recordings, I think, audio recordings of people in the for things like that. So it's just, we can live vicariously through that. But just still, I don't know, it's something hard to imagine when Star Wars has just kind of always been a fixture in the universe, it seems.
Yeah, I don't know that I could imagine it either. I mean, it's always been there for me, and I don't think I've ever seen a movie that has affected me this much in a theater. I mean, I remember occasionally, I tend to go to see movies that I know a decent bit about. I watch the trailers and stuff, and I remember seeing The Prestige just kind of on a whim. Some friends and I wanted, and we were like, I think we were going to try to see something else, and it sold out, and we were like, let's watch The Prestige, I guess. And that movie really blew me away, probably because I didn't know what to expect at all. Right. And that's, I think, the closest analogy I have would be because no one could have anticipated Star Wars and the impact that it had on everyone. So that's still a bad example, I think, comparing The Prestige to Star Wars, but just walking out of that being holy cow, that was not what I expected. Yeah. And it affected me.
Right.
Yeah, no, I completely get that. And I guess the only movie that's done that to me, and there's actually two movies. When I saw Inception for the first time, that was one of those movies you're like, man, what did I just watch? And it was good, but it wasn't like a feel-good thing. I will say this, though. The very first Guardians, when it came out, I went into it just knowing the trailer, just the one trailer, maybe the two trailers they had. And that to me is probably what it felt like when you first saw the original Star Wars. Like this, the campiness, the fun, the quips, all of it. That was unbelievable. And I don't know. I just think this movie in particular, I mean, obviously it captured the imagination of a whole generation and then continue to do it another generation, and now this generation of kids, it's capturing theirs, and adults too. It's no longer kids. It's pretty cool. It's weird. It's I feel so in love with this, but to me, this movie in particular is the warmest movie. I guess it reminds me of putting something in the VHS player, and just having it start up, and I have the copies of the movies that were the THX ones where it had the interview before, and that was just. I still have it. I have the VHS player hooked up right now. If I wanted to watch it, I could.
I just got some of those from my parents, this year.
Yeah.
Brought them back to my house. So.
Well, the thing that makes me get so giddy is the one last time trailer they had for it. See the original trilogy and its ultimate, whatever the marketing plan was. But I don't know. I think 77 was a huge year for music and movies, and I have family members that were there, and they said it was absolutely incredible. It said they just kept going. You just kept going.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing else like it. I couldn't imagine that. I mean, we do that with these movies, but it's because of this movie. So it's one of those things, and I guess to kind of kick off the conversation.
This really jumped up a notch, man. Holy cow. We're not mincing words, guys. Get ready. Here we go.
What does this movie mean to you personally? Alex, I know you've mentioned it before. Just give us the rundown again. Why this movie? What does it mean to you?
I mean, I think part of the reason I got so latched into it is because my parents didn't tell me there were more for a little while. I think they just saw like, oh, he'll watch this every day. Like, let's let him wear that out for a while. And then I was like, there's a 2 and a 3. So
Can confirm
just,
parents actually think like that, actually, yes.
yeah, like, and it was based off of they had taped it off of TBS. So I didn't even have like the movie. I had to fast forward through commercials and stuff. So I guess they were just like, we'll save the money and let him watch this every day for a summer, which is what I did. And so
that's awesome.
I remember really falling in love with the trench run. I loved the whole thing, but it just builds into the trench run. And I loved all the pilots. And I was 8 or 9 when I first saw it. And I don't know. I don't have a good reason other than I just fell in love with everything about it. And then from there, I started reading the books and playing the video games. And my friend and I just kind of started amassing this trivia base for no real reason. We were just like excited to be like, oh, I was reading the character encyclopedia the other day and this thing cool is in there. And then he would be like, well, I was reading the Essential Guide to Vehicles and I read this cool thing, and be like, that's awesome. And we were just like learning about Star Wars together. And that all just stayed in my head.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, a very similar story about the book thing. I don't know, it might be at my mom's. I don't know where it's at now. But I have the visual dictionary that was put out after the original trilogy was put out by, I forget, was it DK Books or whoever? Do they still do it? I don't know.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I have the visual dictionary, and it was at my middle school's library, and it was like, I kid you not, the most torn up book in the world. And it was so funny because I'll never forget, like, can I go? I pulled up the book. I had checked it out for 2 weeks. I come back. Can I check this out again? And she looks at me, the librarian. She takes a pen. She scratches up the barcode. And she said, "It's yours now." And I'm like, "What?" And I'm sure she had just ordered a new one. And I must have been in second or third grade. And I just ran back to the classroom. And I'm like, "This is mine now. Like this, I can like have this forever." And I still do. And like, I just never forget how torn and tattered the pages are. And just reading, the things about Boba Fett and reading everything about, Jabba, and it's just incredible. It's weird. It's for a movie, like this one, it those kind of things make it better. And I guess it's the bigger fan in me. I don't know. It's weird. But I guess it means to me this exploration of something that doesn't exist, and it's fun to do that because it's not real. It's real, but it's not. It's interesting. Jerry, what about you?
Well, whenever I remember seeing the original trilogy on TV and stuff, like just randomly, and like some of my family, like my parents would have it on, or we'd be at my grandma's house, and I specifically remember Empire Strikes Back being on at my grandma's house and going, what the heck is this? And being a little frightened of Yoda, which is kind of weird, funny. I think I was like 6, but whenever you said those VHSs you were talking about, Scotty, those released.
Yeah.
Funny enough, of course, I wore out Empire and Return of the Jedi. Mainly Return of the Jedi because that's the one that you really kind of like gravitate towards.
As a kid,
yeah,
that's one of those movies.
That's just a great one. Yeah. But I have gained such an appreciation for A New Hope over the last 10 years of my life. Like after I got, into high school and stuff, kind of got, more into diving deep into all this stuff and just watching them religiously. I would wear the tapes out and stuff, but I've gained in the last few years this the more I learn about A New Hope and the more I kind of just marinate in all the other canon that's kind of coming into it and stuff, and just appreciate what George Lucas did in 1977. I think one thing I put down in my notes is you can't tell me this movie was made in 1977 because it feels so modern.
It does.
It's still fairly slow for a modern movie, but it still feels so relevant and so timeless. And I've just come later to really appreciate it. Now it's, I believe, was it I did that thing on Twitter the other night where you what is it
Oh yeah,
was one favorite
night, one
movie, and so
movie.
those weren't in any actual order except for the Star Wars movies, and I believe
Yeah,
New Hope is my third favorite, and
yeah,
it's and even that even rank it sounds horrible to rank like because they're all just I love them all, but A New Hope, I think you've wrote down here what I had in my notes, which is this movie is a warm hug packed with meaning.
exactly.
It just really does. Like you put it on, and like it feels like a warm hug. And I've even been like watching it over as much as I can in pieces over the last couple of days. And I mean, my 2 year old, my little girl is like glued to the screen for most of it. Tonight we were watching a little bit of it before I came on here, and she was talking about like, oh, a stormtrooper's gonna get us. Oh no, just like playing. And
Yeah,
loves it. She loves Chewbacca and all this, and it's just amazing that this movie, which you could argue feels the slowest, still affects something in the child in all of us. And so
definitely.
that's just, I guess, kind of the meaning of it to me is just, I don't know. I'm finding new meaning in it every day, and I just grow to love it more and more.
It's kind of biblical, like in a weird sense. Like you said,
A
like
little bit, yeah.
like anytime, whatever time in your life you watch it, and I watched it a couple of nights ago from like a kind of a more of a film perspective. Like I was looking at more of the shots, and it's very unique. It's very different, and I mean George Lucas likes a lot of very modern, what we would consider modern, cinematography. It's just weird. Like he did a lot of things low from the ground, a lot of weird like up shots when Han's running and then the stormtroopers running after him. It's like and I don't know. He found a way to still. I guess he didn't even mean to do it, but he found a way to make it like intriguing to watch this movie, And
Oh, I think he meant to. I hope he meant to do it.
yeah, maybe he did. I don't know. And it just seemed like the movie was a disaster when he was making it, and the
Right.
fact that it was saved on the cutting room floor is amazing. I think people don't give Marsha Lucas enough credit for what she did, and apparently she saved this movie, like 1,000% saved it. And I think it's so
And the
interesting.
Not the Lucas score, the Williams score too.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
like the 1-2 punch that really just shot this into the is the iconosphere the right thing? It made it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to. I'm trying to sound smart.
Totally.
Actually, yeah. So.
And I guess a great transition, Jerry. What's more iconic than the opening crawl? And what a weird way to start off a movie a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. First time anyone's seen that, then boom, this opening crawl kicks. And I guess to kind of kick off this whole discussion, I'm gonna read a little bit of thing dealing with where we are in this chapter. So in this chapter, it's absolute civil war. Okay, the Republic is dead. The Galactic Empire rules over all the galaxy, and it has been 18 years since 18 or 19 since the events of Return of the Revenge of the Sith.
Well, that's why we have Mr. Star Wars explained here. Is it 8?
Yeah, exactly.
Alex?
It's 19. I wasn't gonna actually you, but it's 19.
Well,
You really can't.
Feel
Trust
free
me,
to
that won't
actually.
change.
Feel free. I call myself the canon junkie, sir. I will bow to you. So no worries. No worries.
You're the actually t-shirt owner, so you can
Yeah.
definitely do that. You have the
gotta get
t-shirt.
that.
I like the T-shirt, but I hate the phrase.
There's a bunch of small rebel cells that have banded together to stop this tyranny of evil. The first major battle occurred over the planet of Scarif, and the outcome was receiving the plans of this ultimate weapon, which will hopefully put an end to the war. Capturing these plans, of course. And one thing I got to mention is Rogue One. I can't believe they did it so well. Like reading that crawl now, it's just you see it. You see it before your eyes. Everything from that crawl happened, and it's amazing. Right. So much more depth to the beginning of this movie and what happened to get to this point. And our buddy Eric on the last episode mentioned this in media res, which is like this term in which a movie starts off immediately at a certain point, and it's kind of puts you in the action like right there. And that movie with Rogue One just kind of carried it perfect into this movie. It's incredible. So yeah, we've got these plans, and we are now cruising, and the first thing we see is this little ship flying over, and then this humongous ship behind it. And watching it now, I reflected on it like that makes so much more sense, not just from a beautiful opening sequence, but it shows how small the rebels are. It shows how screwed they are. And like, they really are screwed there. There's nothing good can come of this. And I don't know, the mission to get this plan was a success, and it totally pushed the events of this movie forward. And that opening shot, I mean, still to this day, my surround sounds like just shakes so thunderously.
Yeah. Isn't that like almost the most like what am I trying to say here? Isn't that like the most spoofed shot in cinema? Just like in so many variations. Like growing up in the '90s too, like Tiny Toons did a version of that. A little bit of throwback flavor for you, but like I mean, animated. Every cartoon did their own version of it, and Spaceballs, of course, did something. We've got.
Oh yeah.
I think a Family Guy too, where they've got like the bumper sticker slapped on the back and stuff. Just amazing, like how iconic that shot is. But at the same time, it's so in the DNA of culture that it's just I don't know. It's just kind of crazy. It lasts way longer than I remember. Every time
it does.
Wow, this thing takes forever to get a So it's just amazing.
You're making me think of the Muppet Babies one too.
Oh, that was the best one.
Yeah.
Yes. My daughter is just now getting. I'm gonna just like she just needs to join the podcast at this point. But no, she like is getting into. I've got to get her into that too. But like, yeah, Muppet Babies, all that stuff, man, it's so good.
Well, it's funny enough bringing this up. I actually want to hear your opinion on this, Alex. But a lot of kids, this is kind of random and off topic, but a lot of kids are going to grow up with seeing this movie and all the other Star Wars movies for the very first time on this streaming service. No more is it a VHS. I mean, it's something they're just going to find on a streaming service. And like, I don't know, how does it make you feel to think that this thing is going to be so accessible? No longer do you need to rent it from Amazon or buy a DVD or, whatever. It's going to be so accessible. It's crazy.
It's weird. I was talking about this with Molly earlier today because like we have a Schmoedown to study for, and I've really been dragging my feet on it. And I've been like, it's going to be on Disney Plus in a couple weeks. Like, I'll just stream it. I own this movie 8 different ways. And like,
exactly.
I'm just like, I'll just stream it when it's out. And like,
right.
It's so dumb. But yeah, the accessibility is amazing. And I don't know what it is about streaming that just feels more convenient than popping in a Blu-ray, but it is.
It does.
And yeah, I'm thrilled that people can just watch it easily now. I still hope that they might put the originals out at some point, but
we might be getting close to it. I mean, we've got, I don't know, not to get into all the acquisition of the, Fox and all that stuff, but I don't know. You never know. And
well, it's crazy to think that that whole acquisition now leads to so many other things being on this streaming service, and someone's first viewing of probably something else from Fox is going to be on this. The Simpsons, maybe. Like, there's going to be a whole generation of kids that have so much more accessibility than having to wait for it to show up on TV like we did. Especially with The Simpsons, or especially with things like Star Wars, or even these Marvel movies. I'm just so thrilled to see, like, we're in a time now where everything's so much more accessible. And like Alex says, it's almost like pulling up a YouTube video. You just kind of put it on. If you want to watch a quick scene, you can, and then you can turn it off and, go back to doing your normal routine. It's going to be cool to see how kids take this in and which ones that they probably watch more versus what they watch less. So yeah, I can't imagine, seeing this scene again from the eyes of a child. And maybe one day I'll get the pleasure of doing that, when I have a kid. But it's beautiful because, like Jerry said, even though this scene is still the opening scene, it's like that ship lasts forever, and then immediately we cut into inside of the ship, and we got, R2 and 3PO, and you see these guys running around this corridor for some reason, and no one really knows what's going on, and it's so jarring for that first viewing, I'd imagine. And I don't know, George did it somehow where it's super duper intriguing, and I'm just so happy that a lot of these elements we see in this movie will probably be back in The Rise of Skywalker, especially with I don't know if it's exactly the Tantive V4, but I mean, there's obviously going to be a Corellian ship.
I have
right?
to imagine that it is. I don't know why you would put something that looks so similar to it and then focus on it in the marketing if it's not that. Like, if it turns it's like, nah, it's just another one that looks a lot like it, it'd be like, okay.
Exactly. And that's one thing I think this movie's, gonna have a lot more rewatch value once this movie comes out, maybe. I know George wrote this to be kind of more of a standalone. I mean, people say it's gonna be a big grand scheme 3, act saga, whatever. I can agree to that. But like when it was being made, it was totally with the mind of only having one. Like really, I really truly believe that. And I think the coolest part about this whole sequence is, of course, Vader's amazing entrance. And like that black armor against the white background is just stunning. You don't expect it. The smoke and the white stormtroopers is just so incredible. He comes out blasting, literally. It's just
he does do
it's
that.
It's one of those things that you forget that this movie, the first 5 minutes of it, and I think it's 6 or 7 minutes actually, like exactly 6 or 7 minutes, you're already on Tatooine. Like all this happens so quick, and you get introduced to 3PO and R2, and I guess the big thing Jerry and I have been talking about a lot lately, and I want to hear some more opinions on it, is just, are those our storytellers? Like, is R2 going to be the one that's telling the story in the end? Is that ever going to be disclosed?
I think there's a chance for it, because that was kind of Lucas's original intent, is that R2 is the one relaying the story to us. He's the one that's seen it all, never had his memory wiped. I think that there's a possibility that they could hint at that or even outright show it in the Rise of Skywalker, but I don't know. I guess I kind of hope almost they do, because R2's had so little to do in the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
But then again, he was also turned off for a few years, so there's going to be some gaps in the story there. But yeah,
which could be interesting. Which could be really interesting. Like that could be something they could play with later. Jerry, what do you think? Especially starting with this movie, him being like someone we completely introduce ourselves to for the first time, and you see that relationship there.
Yeah, and again, this is, if we're going, the release order, then of course this is the first, kind of time we meet them. But as we've kind of been going through the chronological saga here, we've been through a lot, except for that 3PO has had his mind wiped, right? I don't know. I wrote in my notes that it really feels like this is their movie for like the first 20 minutes. The first 20 minutes is 100%. It's R2 and 3PO just kind of wisecracking, doing whatever they do, I really think that, I don't know, I really think 3PO is the fact that his mind was wiped in the last movie. It really just, I really think that that's going to come back up in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, you look at it, it was so brilliant how George in the original films, and even in these new ones, the new, JJ and Ryan still have 3PO and R2, and I mean, they're in the places they need to be. And of course, when they weren't there in the sequel trilogy, BB-8 was there, right? So I really, I know we've been talking about it. I agree. I think that's for sure going to happen. But I don't know, the dynamic between them is so great, and I think, was it likened to, this is before my time, but Laurel and Hardy or something, kind of a comedic duo or something. Maybe more of a Harry and Lloyd, maybe not quite that bad for our generation. But I don't know, just like this, it's like you said, this warm hug, this warm feeling you get. Everything about the droids is just, it's amazing how expressive they are, because they're just like a cold metal golden face, a trash can. So amazing. You got to imagine poor like George Lucas, like when before Marsha and Williams saved the film, like showing this to Francis Ford Coppola and them.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to imagine like the sweat coming off of that guy. I mean, just like like the trash can robot. It's like a trash can, but it beeps. Okay. Anyway. But yeah, I don't know. What else can you say about them, man? I mean, the droids are awesome, but I want to talk about Leia
Yeah.
because how cool is it that and look, I'll admit I'm not up completely on my 1970s cinema. I've seen most of the main stuff that came out in the 70s, Jaws and the like, but it wasn't the common thing to have this princess uh, who wasn't a damsel in distress. I mean, you might can argue that she is a little bit there whenever she gets kind of uh, like knocked out and stuff by
Yeah.
the stun blast. But just from minute one is something I kind of noticed. She just completely is in charge. She knows what she's got to do. She's not gonna like back down. She's hiding, but she's just basically trying to buy her time. She doesn't like run away. She like comes out and is going to. Like, she takes out a dude, doesn't she? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. She's not. She doesn't have her set to stun. She's like, nah, you're not gonna take me. So I just gotta. I freaking love Carrie Fisher and Princess Leia. So I don't know. Alex? What do you think about this whole like introduction of Leia?
Yeah, I mean, I agree about everything that people ever say about Leia, that she was a trailblazer for characters like her. And the intro is so, I don't know, mysterious to begin with. You've heard the Princess Leia's in the crawl. You've heard the droids talking about the princess, and it's like you think, yeah, that's probably the princess, but yeah, she's immediately just shooting people, and she's not hiding; it's strategic hiding. Like,
Right.
we're waiting to spring a trap. Really, she's facing down the scariest person we've ever seen in a movie immediately, like just calling him names almost to his face. Like, only you could be so bold. Like, rolling her eyes at him. She's immediately a badass.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And there's a lot of things that can be said about her later too, because that character doesn't let up. Like even Return of the Jedi, she's all enslaved and stuff, but that character doesn't let up. She kills the guy that enslaved her, and even in TLJ, she's a powerful leader, and it's cool to think like what they could do with this character now, and I can't wait to see her in The Rise of Skywalker because I can't imagine what they're gonna do with her there. But the cool thing is you see this shot of her, hunched over and she's looking around and she puts this little thing into the R2 unit and then she puts the hood on, goes off, and R2 just turns over and goes straight forward. And 3PO is like, secret mission? What plans? And he's like opening the escape pod. I just love how 3PO just has no idea what's going on. It's just so great. And for that character, and it's so cool to think Anthony Daniels still is so passionate about that role. I love that. I haven't read the book yet. I can't wait to. I hope there's an audiobook. Like I really hope there's an audiobook of him reading it. But that character's amazing, and it's kind of odd whenever they get in the escape pod and they jettison the escape pod and they go right off down the Tatooine. The music to me is just like that. That is just so iconic. The swells and you see it kind of curve down into the planet, and the one guy didn't fire upon it.
Yeah. Okay, what's up with those
forms.
guys? Those guys should have been fired immediately. I mean, come on. What is up with the like hiring standards of the Empire? Like, there's we're a terrorist, an evil regime, but we'll let an escape pod go.
What was the
Nothing's fishy about that.
No. What was the from the certain point of view story behind it? What was it again?
There was a story about how they realized that they messed up, and they basically got like a guy who was really good at paperwork to hide their mistake and say something like, "Oh, well, the blaster was scheduled for maintenance and that never happened." And then they like filled out a bunch of forms to make it look like, it's so ridiculous.
Well, that book honestly enhanced my viewing of this movie, watching it now. Like, I had the audiobook. It actually enhanced my viewing of it, especially for that scene.
Yeah. Well, Sienna Ree was also, or Sienna, however you want to say, was also there, if I'm remembering correctly, from Lost Stars. I think she was, like, training it, because she was, like, on I'm blanking on the name of Vader's Star Destroyer now. The
Devastator.
Devastator, right? Thank you. Yeah, no, like she was like, if I'm remembering correctly from the book, I don't know if you guys can correct me on that, but she was like standing like right behind those guys, and I think she even was like, these guys really don't know what they're doing. Or something.
Yeah, I think you're right. Man, it's been a while since I've read that book, but it's a good
That was
book.
a
That's
long
still
time
one
ago.
of my favorite Star Wars books ever.
That is amazing.
Well,
I love that one.
I want to see what you think of this, Jerry. Why do you think Vader did not go down to the planet to handle it himself? Like, why, wasn't he aware of the escape pod, or was that later? I think he knew about it immediately, right?
We
Or
know
no?
we know how he feels about sand.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
No?
it's weird to think he's such a go get 'em, and I
Right,
think it's
right.
odd that he didn't make the choice to go down to Tatooine. Maybe he knew he just didn't want to go down there. He just didn't want to deal
Right.
with that.
Well,
Maybe
in
it
all
brings back too much
seriousness,
anger.
I think that's why Obi-Wan ends up. People always say like, why did they hide Luke on Vader's home planet and all this stuff? I think it's a brilliant plan to hide Luke in plain sight because there was no way Vader was going back to that place. He lost his. He was enslaved there. He lost his mother there. He had. Plus Padme went with him there. There's memory
Yeah.
of that. You got to think like Vader is just this walking manifestation of trauma.
Yes.
It's just I don't know. It's amazing the guy can get through his day and drink his nutrient supplement, whatever is in his mat. The dude is just a walking open wound of horribleness, and I'm just describing it worse and worse. So, but yeah, no, I just think he's got I've got troops to do that. To them to do what I needed them to do, and I wondered whenever he meets with Leia, you got to wonder. Of course, we didn't. The practical answer is he didn't know that was his daughter in 1977 because it was 1977 and we didn't find out till 83 that was the truth.
Yeah.
But you got to wonder in the whole canon continuity here, and then in this chronological watch through that we're doing. Do you guys think he felt anything, or was he just too blinded by hatred? I don't know, Alex. What do you think, man?
no, I think he. Well, first he says that she must have hidden the plans in the escape pod. I think maybe he thought she just tossed the disc in there and sent
Right.
it down. So maybe that's why he didn't go down. He didn't expect droids to have it.
Yeah.
But on top of that, yeah, I think the first time that he actually sets foot on Tatooine, as far as we know, is in the Darth Vader comic that takes
Right.
place after A New Hope. And it's like, he's still feeling some things, none of them positive, but like he hunts down Tusken Raiders just
Yeah.
for the fun of it.
Right.
If you want to call it
'Cause
that.
he's
So,
still mad. Yeah,
yeah,
he's still
so
mad.
I
Yeah.
think he definitely still has feelings about Tatooine.
It's gotta be weird to be thinking about this character because so many years have passed, and luckily we have so much canon to fill in and dive in on this character in general. It's like there's so many things that happen in this movie that would later be, kind of mentioned in weird ways. Like, I know we're going to get into it, but it's the Obi-Wan and R2 thing I think is so interesting. And I wonder if it's going to get addressed. I don't know if he tried to erase his memories. I don't know. Like, that'll come in later. But, like,
Anakin
this
didn't
whole-
expect anyone else to have an Anakin-like plan, and that was to put a couple put the plans in a droid and send him. He was like, and it's funny because if he would have known, of course, the daughter of Anakin Skywalker is like, you know what? I'm gonna do the most crazy thing. All right, so yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
There is in one of the young reader adaptations that came out since 2015, around there. There is a small scene where Obi-Wan acknowledges R2, and it's kind of like, I guess he just didn't want Luke to know that they knew, and he just says something like, "It's good to see you again, old friend," and that's when they're on the Falcon.
Oh,
So they find a
I
little,
couldn't imagine.
yeah, they find a little time to say what's up to each other, and
nice.
so I guess when you first see Obi-Wan, he's like, can't seem to ever remember owning a droid. R2 is probably just like, oh, okay, we're playing it like that. All right.
Well, he does kind of give a look too, and I think it's interesting, like the subtle looks that Alec Guinness gives. And I know it might not mean anything, of course, then, but now you can kind of interpret it as meaning a little bit of something. And we said the same exact thing about Palpatine in our most recent episode. Palpatine gives a lot of looks in the prequels, and it's like the same thing. And of course we know that that's written, in 2005, but it's still, with what we have coming in December, it has a lot of implications. And one thing I want to kind of parallel to is this visual of R2-D2 and 3PO roaming through the desert. It's so similar to Finn doing the same exact thing, and Finn taking off his armor. And everyone always tries to make that statement that, oh, it's just a rehash of A New Hope, which I think The Force Awakens does play to this A New Hope aesthetic, but it's not a rehash. There's a lot of story beats that are similar, but a lot of things that are really different and really unique. And I'm just happy JJ's going to have apparently he's going to really go pretty wacky with The Rise of Skywalker, from what I've heard.
And he said that today.
Exactly.
I haven't even got to read that article yet, but my gosh, I'm getting excited for that movie. Let's just talk about Skywalker for a minute. Let's go.
No, it's cool to think what he did later to make these parallels a little bit more powerful, Mm-hmm. And especially with The Force Awakens, a lot of really good visual storytelling. JJ kind of captured that perfectly. And, with that being said, another thing I thought was interesting was all these eclectic groups of droids they find whenever you go to the Sandcrawler, and of course R2 gets captured, and the Whootini, that's like my favorite sequence right there. The music is amazing, but everything leading up to that, it's so barren, and you don't see anything weird. And the second you get on this area, you see the Jawas and you see the droids, and you see how quirky and weird this movie's going to get. And I think that's really what kind of drove viewers back in '77. This is so unlike anything else they've ever seen.
Yeah, it felt like an entire, like a real world you could go visit almost.
Definitely.
It was just so, everyone always says the lived-in feel of Star Wars is what really kind of appeals to people. So, yeah, it really just, that's the first big indication of, wow, this is not your daddy's space movie. So.
No. And one thing I want to kind of bring up back to from a certain point of view, it kind of made this movie a little bit more interesting to watch and look for particular things. And I don't know how you feel about it. And it also plays into something we said earlier about R2 being our storyteller. This little mini story from a certain point of view, I don't want to give it away. I guess I'll give it away. Spoiler alert.
The book's
if you haven't read it, it's
3 years old almost.
Exactly. You should have read it by now. But with that being said, we are introduced to a character called Jot. And Jot's a little Jawa, and he's like tucked up in the very corner of a sandcrawler. And what he does is he steals the memory disk, I believe, or memory systems from old droids, just to get a perspective on what it's like to be outside of the sandcrawler and in the galaxy at large. And in this story, he pulls R2's memory unit, and it's absolutely it actually, the audiobook literally brings me to tears, because it literally tells the stories of all the prequels in like great detail, and these things that this little droid did. And it talks about the Jot seeing the Death Star planes for the first time, and it's just amazing. It's so cool. And with that being said, this I think really kind of just answers the question of, is he the storyteller? Because he's got it all there.
Yeah.
The marriage on Naboo and everything. Like they mentioned that.
It would really be kind of funny if it wasn't, and all of a sudden it's just like Wedge Antilles sitting down like, I was actually, I'm a lot better than I seem. So, yeah, I don't know. It really just feels like it's pointing to that, and that's kind of like something George always talked about too. Is he kind of that was them kind of relaying the story. So.
I love the Jot story.
How about everyone? I know everyone always makes a big deal that Owen doesn't recognize C-3PO and things like that, but it's just like this is an observation that I made, and I don't know, like I just that stuff has never bothered me, and maybe it's because I was of a certain age when the prequels came out, but it never like bothered me. Like, well, duh, there's droids all over the place. There's R2 units. Like, you got to think there's more blue R2 units than R2-D2.
Yeah.
And there's more like, for one thing, also, C-3PO was not gold. when he was there. They
Yeah.
couldn't afford gold plating. Like, you know, and he's probably like, oh, sweet, this one's got gold plating. This is way better than our last one. But no, I like how we put it here. You know, it's almost like I see droids as almost like cell phones. It's kind of like, you know, they're mass produced, constantly getting updates, and you know, if you don't have the new one, you just got to kind of put up with what you got until you can, you know, get a new one.
I mean, I think you're exactly right, because even Luke, when he first meets R2 and 3PO, he's kind of like annoyed that they're introducing themselves. Like, I think they see droids as tools and not people. And then as time went on, our characters begin to see them as people. I mean, by the end of the movie, Luke is like, not on your life will I trade my R2 unit. I'm keeping this one.
Right.
So we begin to see them more and more as people. And then when we went to the prequels, I think we just kept that mentality. And yeah, Owen, I mean, I don't remember the last toaster I owned. So
exactly.
I think that's all it is.
Yeah.
Well, it's cool. It's cool to kind of go into this part too with R5 and the fact that he was in, I guess, Legends. He was such a like built up character.
Yeah. Oh man,
and
Skippy.
R5's malfunction is incredible. It has to happen, I guess. And even in the new canon, I'm pretty sure, even from a certain point of view, don't they mention like he asked him to?
Yeah. They don't make it as much of like he's force sensitive. They just make it more like you know, R2 basically like, hey, look, please, like I'm on a secret mission. The galaxy depends on this, and it brings up the humanity of the droids, or at least the droids are more sentient than the characters even might like to think. But it really kind of leaves out the. I'm sorry, guys. I just don't know if I could really deal with R5D5 picking up a lightsaber, you know. And
I liked how they handled it in the new canon, where at first R2 was like straight up going to murder him. And I was like, whoa, R2. Yes. But instead he just like appeals to, he's like, look, I have to get off this sandcrawler. And he's like, all right, I'll help you.
Wasn't he like doing like the droid equivalent of like, if I remember right, like smothering him with a pillow while he's sleeping?
I mean,
like, he was like not even aware.
He woke up and he's like, what are you doing?
That's great. That's a John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell comedy waiting to happen right there.
Yeah.
Let's see. You got what is it? Is this the first instance where he says thank the maker in at least release order? C3.
Yeah. It's when he's in the oil bath, if I'm not mistaken. And I think it's kind of funny that this is the maker. Well, he says he's like, you know, he recognizes Anakin, you know, in Attack of the Clones as the maker. It's just like, I don't know. It kind of makes you think about his wiped memories, and if that does come into play in The Rise of Skywalker, I mean, we might get some crazy stuff dealing with, like, you know, he might remember the maker and he might have to talk about the maker, and that might be the big plot point. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting that he even says it, and they totally do a callback in Attack of the Clones, but it's kind of cool. I don't know.
I want to know how 3PO recognizes Anakin 10 years later. Like, does he have technology to like guess what he's going to look like aged up?
He's got the technology that all of the the news organizations in the 90s has. Like, here's what this person would look like today.
Yeah.
Well, he says a really big line, and I feel like my friend over here might enjoy it. He says, Biggs is right. I'm never going to get out of here. And he's playing with the Skyhopper. And I wish we had seen, I wish people had known, like, what Biggs was. I'm sure that line was probably so weird to some people. But, like, damn it, if we had that scene not cut, it would make so much more sense. And, of course, it makes sense later in the movie. You meet Biggs. But, like, how do you feel about that scene actually getting cut, Alex? I know this is kind of what kicked off the fandom for you, the subtleties of fandom. But, like, would you have wanted it in, really?
Honestly, no. I don't think it's a very good scene. I think it grinds the movie to a halt. It just, it doesn't work. And also, it would have taken place before we meet Luke in the final cut of the movie. It's just odd. It really is.
Yeah.
It is a weird, and
the introduction of Luke is sorry, man. I was just gonna say the introduction of Luke is just too perfect. With how
yes. One thing I wanted to mention, I love how Luke's name is yelled constantly in this movie. It's like Luke, Luke, but then Owen's like Luke. It's like this poor. I guess it's the only way you can communicate in the desert,
Yeah.
is screaming each other's name.
in that little canyon of theirs. Yeah. Well, and I also love how they're turning like Baru into like a bad A. You know, with like the I don't know. You know, with the new canon book. Oh, what was it? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on everything tonight.
White Suns.
With the Padme book that came out this year.
Queen Shadow.
Shadow, that's the one. They like, I don't know if you remember this, Alex or Scotty, but she goes, was it not Dorme? It's Sabe. See, I read the book, I promise. Sabe goes to like Anakin's old house, and they've got like the white sun carved, on the door frame, which really kind of like points towards maybe that's how like we got. And I think I mentioned that in the Attack of the Clones episode too. That's how like Klieg probably got a hold of, or got, wind of Shmi and things like that, and just kind of like almost painting the White Suns as like they're trying to free slaves too. Or something.
Yes.
I don't know. I just find that stuff kind of interesting.
Well,
She
I
also
gotta bring
has
it
a
up
very
now.
soothing voice.
Oh yeah, she does. Very calm, very calming, like motherly. Yeah,
Very,
no,
very motherly.
I need to bring it up because now I can't stop thinking about it. The fact that Shmi is buried on that property is like kind of incredible. And like the fact that that Luke was around the body of his grandmother. I wonder if that's ever going to be addressed. I don't know. It's just kind of interesting because he was definitely around where she was buried. And I don't know if those tombstones blew over. I don't know if they lost their sentimentality. I think
Owen knocked him down as soon as Luke came. So
exactly, like we give her to kick these over so he doesn't ask questions. But he knows about his dad, which is something I really want to bring up. And like he knows about his dad, and he knows subtle things about his dad, but he doesn't know the full truth. And I love I can't wait till we see it in a show. The Owen and Obi-Wan dynamic, And
oh man,
that's gonna be amazing. But anyway, I'm sorry, I jumped the gun. This droid belongs to Obi-Wan Kenobi, and of course half the little clip plays, and I think it's interesting that in TLJ they use the same exact clip, but from a different angle. It's just so refreshing. It's just slightly different, and I don't know. I think this little message has so much more implication for the greater story than it was meant to. And it tells the backstory of the Clone Wars while giving a present moment, a present feeling to this moment, and then it's going to be played in later. It's just genius. And the fact that R2, kind of rings Luke back in TLJ with it is just so tasteful. That is just so awesome. But the property of Obi-Wan Kenobi, it's pretty cool to think Luke's like, yeah, he might be talking about Ben Kenobi.
they must be related.
Who else?
Yeah, I just can't wait to see that play out because we're gonna see it. Like that's a reality now. God, that's awesome.
That is crazy. Yeah, well, I love that whole dinner sequence too, where after he gets that information, he goes, that's just so juicy now that we have the prequels and all the other canon. It's just that whole like the looks that I don't know, because you know that when they made this movie that George, he knew he wanted to make more eventually if he could, or
yes.
They didn't have plans at this point. He was just like, hey, I'll just make this movie and we'll see. But just the looks that they give Owen and Beru to each other, like the knowing senses across the table are so chill-inducing. And I love that delivery too. Like, he's got too much of his father in him, and I'm afraid of.
So good.
So haunting. Yeah, it's like, it had a completely different meaning in 1970.
I hope George high-fived himself for like in 1980 when he's like, I can't believe I put that in there.
He needs to, if he hasn't, George, if you're listening, sir, yourself a high five, you deserve it. Oh, thank you, boys. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, no, Phil, he deserves it for sure.
Well, it's something I think is so cool is like the idea of everything that it plays after this, and the fact that Luke is sitting in the same exact spot as his dad from Attack of the Clones. Like they're sitting in the same exact seat, same exact, almost shot for shot look. I think George did that really well. And of course, the same thing with the whole garage sequence. That's almost all shot for shot as well, you know? And I'm so impressed that they could pull it off, you know, in what was it, 01 or even 2000 when they went and filmed it.
They were filming, yeah.
It's crazy. And the next shot is a pivotal shot. And it's something that I've been wanting to really kind of bring up because I actually brought it up in the most recent episode, but I really want to hear what you think of this. The idea of these sons being in, of course, Revenge of the Sith, being in Attack of the Clones as well. Shmi mentions it in The Phantom Menace, and now we see it again in A New Hope. The setting sun is a huge scene for the greater story at large, but also it's big for the Skywalkers. Do you think, you know, they meant to do all this symbolism with the sun? Like, how do you feel about the sun in these Star Wars movies, or the setting sun, really?
I mean, in A New Hope, I think it was just like Luke's going another day out here in the middle of nowhere. I think that's probably all that it really meant then. In Revenge of the Sith, I just got the sense of they were just calling back to A New Hope, and it very effectively. I love it. I really like The Last Jedi, where he's not looking out at a sunset but a sunrise as he becomes one with the Force, where even though his part of the tale might be ending, like he has helped something new happen, a new birth for the Resistance.
I never even thought about that being the sunrise, actually, until you just said that. That
because it was dark. You're right. It was dark when he was doing the meditating. That's a good point. Like the thing we mentioned in our most recent episode too, it was like Anakin when he's staring off into Mustafar and he's thinking about everything he did and he's crying with his Sith eyes. He's looking at a sunset. And then the one thing I thought was cool that it kind of dawned on me when watching Revenge of the Sith was Kylo Ren, before he stabs Han Solo, the sun was there, and then the sun is gone.
Yeah.
And then he does it. It's like this sunset has much more, way more of a motif than anything right now. And I wonder.
You can even argue that was more of they took the light away from Kylo. It didn't necessarily go away. It's taken from him, which is an interesting. I just thought of that.
That's like
good. An interesting thing.
It's crazy the parallels that were unintentionally placed in this movie that then is something that is such a huge callback. The Force theme, especially in this sequence alone, is something the sequel trilogy has kind of ran with. And the prequel trilogy, from our rewatch now that we've done it, the Force theme is used, but nowhere near as much as it's used in the sequel trilogy, which I think is good. I like that they're kind of doing it, you know? Like the prequels had Duel of Fates a lot. I mean, they used it in every movie. And this, they use the main theme a lot in these movies. And now the Force theme is really taking its own, I guess, flavor and taste in the sequel trilogy. And yeah, that idea of the sun being rising instead of setting is absolutely amazing. That's awesome. Well, we are then having to go search for R2-D2 because the dude wandered off. An asshole. He just decided to up and leave. And there's one thing we've noticed, and was watching it really from a more of a film perspective rather than a Star Wars perspective, was there's not that many POV shots in Star Wars. We have one more we can add to the list, Jerry. Luke looking out the binoculars.
You are like finding these in every movie now. I've never thought of this until you started like pulling them out.
Alex, originally I noticed that the only POV shot that I thought was in the prequels was from C-3PO, and it's a weird POV shot. It's like
a weird POV shot.
Him following Anakin. It's Ferris Bueller. He's like, look, 3PO. He's like walking back and forth. You really got to take care of Mom when I'm gone. It's
like Anakin's one-man show.
Uh-huh.
So.
Yeah, it's like, it's weird. And then the next POV shot was in the Revenge of the Sith with whoa, it's weird. Another weird one. It's of Anakin this time, and it's him looking at the Vader mask coming down. And then this is another POV shot of him looking through the binoculars. So That's another one to the list. We've got 3 so far. But
Those Skywalker men and 3PO and their
yeah.
POPs.
Hey, I mean, if you really want to get crazy, 3PO is Anakin's first child. So
Yeah.
let's be honest.
Wow. That's true.
He is a Skywalker, actually. Whoa. All right. Let's stop the show. We did great, guys. Have a great weekend.
All right.
Stay
Bombad.
No, I think it's cool with the Tusken Raider. It's almost shot for shot the same with the Tusken Raider leaning over and, like the pod race sequence. And I love that Obi-Wan saves the day. It's just cool. And he kind of does some sort of weird force healing on Luke, too, that I think people often overlook. He, places his hand on his head, and then Luke wakes up, 5 minutes later. And, Jerry, you mentioned about the Obi-Wan sound that's changed every time this movie is released.
It's Alex, is it you that calls it the drunken NASCAR fan?
I don't think so, but that's good.
Oh, someone, I forget who it is. It's someone in this space calls it that, and it's a good. It doesn't bother me as much as I think it does other people, but at the same time, the old sound effect was more effective, if you ask me. I don't know why he felt like he had to change.
They've changed it 3 times, right? And it gets worse
Something.
every time.
It's almost like George is always like, you guys don't like it, here you go. He's like, I'm gonna make it worse. Anyway.
Well, it's weird because
we love you, George.
That's the crate dragon yell, and maybe finally when the Kenobi series comes out, we can actually hear a real crate dragon.
I think it's real. What if it really does? Though he meets a crate dragon and it goes.
It's exactly that. That would actually be hysterical. I would love that.
I love it.
Look, you heard it here first. The crate dragon is going to be a guttural NASCAR fan. Destroyed at Talladega.
Okay. I'm gonna wake up my kid up.
No. We get the hello there. That is just so. Ewan McGregor. If I could just have a moment of silence for how amazing he is and how amazing he's going to be. Are you kidding me? I just can't believe we're getting that. But the hello there, and then Alec doing the same thing.
Oh, Alec Guinness is just, and I don't know. It's amazing that man did Star Wars.
It really is.
You read all the stuff about how. Oh my goodness, it's amazing. It's so funny to hear all that too, because he was just so classical actor. It was just fun. Yeah. You want me to do what, George? So I don't know. Go read a book, kids, about the making of the original film, because it's great. It's so good. Or listen. Have you guys listened to that Blockbuster?
Yes, I was going to ask you.
So good,
because some of the stuff you were talking about early on about being saved in the edit and John Williams' score.
Yeah,
so much of that is covered in Blockbuster and so effectively.
Very cinematically too for a podcast. So yeah, check that out,
like
guys.
An audio
Shout
book.
Out to them.
It's amazing. It's like an audio play. Yeah, no, if you haven't had the opportunity, anyone listening, after this is over, go sub to them. And they have a second season coming out, and I really am looking forward to that.
Oh my gosh. I'm not ready.
They announced that recently.
The episode where George hears the music for the first time is transcendent.
I was listening to it while I was mowing the lawn, and I was just weeping, walking around my yard.
People are like, "Is he okay? I think he's just allergic to clipping."
One thing I thought was really cool, and this is another beauty of Star Wars and sound editing. We have the Afraid sequence, and it's been totally ripped to do the Rey and the Force back, and I think it's just really cool the fact that they cut that phrase "afraid" up and used Rey in a later movie. I don't know. That's pretty wicked. I'm not gonna lie, and it's cool to think that Obi-Wan, quote unquote, hasn't gone by that name in a very long time, and I wonder what that means. Is he gonna go to Tatooine and be like, "Oh, I'm Ben Kenobi"? Like. What's he gonna say? Old Ben?
I don't know. It'd be funny if it is something really mundane. Just he he goes to get a calf or something at a local calf shop, and just Ben, old Ben, it's Obi-Wan. Dang it, they never get it right, I don't know.
there's one thing that we go to next. Of course, it's Obi-Wan's home. And in Obi-Wan's home, we get the whole, pretty much the backstory for the prequels. And it's so well done. And that is, I think, probably the most like, we're going to do a saga trailer, okay? And we're going to throw this in there for everything. And it's, I mean, the Revenge of the Sith trailer is amazing because of that, you know? Before the Dark Times, before the Empire. It's just freaking awesome.
Well, Alec Guinness is just so good at like looking stoically into the distance. Like,
yeah, he is.
It's amazing.
It's something kind of cool because that you fought in the Clone Wars thing is like so much more meaning now, and I'm sure it did when Attack of the Clones came out too. But like now with the Clone Wars and the Clone Wars is coming back, it's like Jesus. It's like half of his life was fighting the Clone Wars. It was all, not half of, I guess, a very short portion of it, but it feels like half of it. I mean, for what we know,
half of what we've seen. Yeah.
I mean, you're doing the rewatch, you know. I mean, come on, are you kidding me? It's like, it's crazy to think that George had done this so well that he could probably play into it. And of course, do you remember the big speculation back in the day that Obi-Wan was like Obi-Wan, like he was a clone. It's just, I love that. That's pretty clever. It's just something to think Star Wars fans in '99 were like tearing for something too, just as much as we are.
It's like you can't tell us anything as fans in these movies. Like we will,
No,
our expectations are so sky high. So.
My favorite line is just funny to give it meaning now is, your father wanted you to have this when you were old enough, and then I think immediately of the "I hate you." It's just like cuts off his legs and arms and takes his lightsaber, leaves him to burn on the side of a mountain. It's just like I don't know. I love it.
It's all this stuff where like Obi-Wan gets painted as a huge liar, especially by the time of Return of the Jedi, and it's not really his fault. It's just like the writing. Like, everything he said was true at the time he said it, but then by the time you get to Return of the Jedi, it's like, from a certain point of view?
Yeah.
He's a dirty liar.
Well, and you could also say, you know, like, I mean, look at Luke. I mean, this here's this, like, 19-year-old kid, like, playing, and I mean, I'm not shaming anyone for playing with, like, a toy airplane or anything, but, you know, like, he's just like, here's this kid who, like, I mean, he's had the most like actual like real childhood of any Star Wars character.
He did.
It was like, true. You know, I mean, even though he was raised by his aunt and uncle, it was still a very just normal childhood. And he, it's like, I don't think this kid can handle that. Hey, your dad is like essentially the most evil man in the galaxy, and he also he killed your mom and.
He's actually from the same planet
sister,
that you're on.
Can you imagine like Luke's face like after like all that? Like, oh my, it would have been insane.
It's better that he got let down easy. Like, it was like it was very subtle. Like I like that about Luke, because then it makes Luke as a character not trust the people that trained him, which I think is kind of a beautiful thing, because they have their best intentions for him, but they have to lie to him in order to make sure that Luke doesn't. You know, he could be totally overcome by the dark side. And it's not really seen in this movie, but it's definitely seen later. And I think that's kind of a cool aspect that's not really explored. They really are just protecting him for the sake of not letting him fall to the dark, just like his dad did.
I mean, Obi-Wan didn't know he was going to die in 4 hours. Like, he was probably like, I don't want to dump too much on him at once.
Right.
I'll save this for another day. Oh, no, I'm dead. And...
Well, that's
I do love the new canon thing, though. Like, and I think we talked about it last episode too, of Satine in the Clone Wars, introducing Obi-Wan as the collection of half truths and hyperbole.
Yes.
Kenobi. It's just it really fits in perfectly. So.
That's a good point you bring up, because there's a part that happens after this, and it's kind of weird. It's the only real like internal conflict you see in Luke. It's the internal conflict of, should I stay or should I go? Like, should I stay with Owen or should I go with Obi-Wan? And I think that's like that's the weird thing. This is the only part where I'm like, Obi-Wan's kind of a manipulative dude for doing this. You know, he's like, you got to come with me. I can't do this myself. And he's being honest, I get it, but it's kind of palpish, if I'm be real. Like, it's just like, you need me, I can't do, like, it's like, you need to, leave and come with me. It's kind of persuasive. And I know it's probably not meant to be that way, more from a sincere point of view, but it gives Luke his out. It gives him the reason to leave. And I kind of think it's weird how the Force made that happen. Because if you think about it, the Force is playing into all this occurring, let's be honest. And I think the Force's will was maybe for Owen and Beru to die and for this journey to take place, And of course, the next scene if you want to, I guess, dive to the next part, is when you first see the Death Star and it's dun 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 dun, which is, I wish they would throw that back in at some point in the new movies. That's like my favorite subtle theme.
I think it was used in Rogue One.
Yo, it was definitely used in Rogue One. I'm hoping for the Rise of Skywalker they do something weird and they just throw that little lick in there because it's such a tasteful lick.
I loved in Solo on the train heist. They throw a little when the stormtrooper, the range come out. They do a little subtle bum 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 ba-na-na-na-na-na-na-na.
Yeah.
I love that.
Oh,
but that Death Star roundtable conversation it's great. And the classic.
Well, it's great in terms of Rogue One.
Right.
Like, if you,
Rogue One
it's
makes
awesome.
it cool. Yeah. You've even, I mean, of course, back in '77 they weren't like, so people will know that Krennic was supposed to sit there.
Yeah.
But we've got just Vader making his staking his claim as like dad joke champion, or also just like one-liner king. Like, I find your lack of faith disturbing, is just, that's still such a good, corny, like, awesome part. I love that so much.
No, definitely. And the introduction of Tarkin's amazing. Like, Vader kind of follows him like a dog, which I love. I love it because it shows, and of course, what a great actor Peter Cushing was. But like, it's just he's so iconic and he's so scary looking naturally, and for him to be kind of Vader's on Vader's leash is, I'm sorry, Vader is on his leash. He kind of has to listen to him. I think it's kind of cool. It's like having the Emperor before you had the Emperor. And the thing that was mentioned, which is really cool for the story aspect of it, he's like, the Imperial Senate has been dissolved. There's no more, the Empire is actually at this point a full-on empire. No more talking, no more dealing with the delegates, which is funny because that's primarily what, George was setting up with the prequels. And then, of course, you finally hear it answered in this movie. And, I like that. I like that it shows the Empire kind of has become way more of a powerhouse than it was before. No more Senate. No more voting. It's awesome. And you get the first Force choke, too, which is really kind of tasteful. It's that must have been a cool scene to see happen, on set. Because, like, that's the first one. And that's such an iconic thing now. Like, I love that. I don't know.
I wonder what those people thought. Like, if they got it at all. Or now pretend you're being choked, and everyone's like, what?
What are you talking about? Yeah.
Like, a snake is choking
you with his imagination.
Yeah, exactly. No, then we go back. It's like the next cut is them looking at the Sandcrawler, and these shots are way too accurate for us. A sand people. Only a stormtrooper can shoot with this much accuracy. It's like, that's like the big joke.
It's definitely like exposition of like these guys are really cool. It's like the person who like has to talk themselves up.
Yes.
It's like, I don't know. It's just funny. It's like all this exposition, then it never like comes to fruition.
No. I love it.
Of the original trilogy films.
Well, one thing I've brought up a lot recently on my Twitter is the idea of fire being a big thing, and of course Luke realizes it, and it's like my favorite line. It actually gives me chills talking about is if that means they're looking for the droids, that means they let him straight to home, and he runs off. And like that, like that's like, I mean, that's hard. I mean, I couldn't imagine knowing like the whole ride there. It's like if you had a family member get in an accident and you have to go, help them. It's like the whole time your mind is racing, and he gets there and the house is on fire and there's those two burnt bodies, and the musical cue is so incredible. It's this it's the Force theme, but it's just like the violin like going at a constant rate, and it's the same exact cue that's used when Rey catches the lightsaber. And why do you think they did that? Like why was that the cue they did for Rey? Not that just because it sounded good, but why that? I guess story wise.
I would guess because that's when Luke accepts that he's gonna go on this adventure, and that's also when Rey accepts the lightsaber. Earlier, she rejected it, so now she is saying, "Okay, like I'll take up the sword and become the hero."
Yeah, it's like pulling the Master Sword, you know. In Legend of Zelda, it's just like you pull it out the ground, and there you are. You're the hero that everyone's been calling you the whole video game. Jay, what do you think?
No, that's what I was saying. Like it's 100% the hero moment. You know.
Yeah.
That's maybe not a hero moment with Luke, but just Alex, you're 100% right, man. That's the moment that Luke sees. Like, no, yeah, I need to go with him. I need to go on this adventure. This is my destiny. I also think that, we were talking earlier about Obi-Wan, like kind of like lying. I don't know if I always have felt kind of like Obi-Wan is kind of telling him these things and kind of trying to coax him to go with him because he kind of knows.
Yeah.
But again, talking about like not wanting to dump too much information on him, he's probably not really wanting to. He doesn't want him to go back there and get killed along with him. And he also is just like, look, it probably would be better for you to just come with me right now.
Yeah.
People usually respond better to that than like, your aunt and uncle are going to die. They're dead.
Well, the idea of Obi-Wan kind of almost wanting him to see it because he probably knows, and I'm pretty sure when he talks to Qui-Gon through that one scene in from a certain point of view, I really need to re-listen to that book. But from that one scene, he gets to talk to Qui-Gon about it, right? If I'm not mistaken, or like he's aware.
They have a conversation, while Luke's on his way over there.
Yeah,
it's awesome. And well, I want to bring up one thing before we move on to the next scene. The idea of fire, especially for the Skywalkers, is very interesting. Luke in particular, the first time you see Luke around fire is this scene, which is a moment of transition, a really pivotal moment. The next scene you see Luke around fire, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be whenever he's burning Vader's body,
Yeah.
And the next, it's like this journey started with that and it's going to end with that. And then the next scene with fire is whenever he is going to see, he wakes up unconscious and his temple's burning and the fire and the embers are flying in front of his face. And it's just, fire is an interesting thing to see in Star Wars because I think it means something. I might be putting a lot more emphasis into it, but like for him in particular, every pivotal moment, Ben's fall, finally giving closure for Anakin, and then his parent, his I guess uncle and aunt dying, and then we got the other symbolism. Fire is that the Jedi are going to live on when Yoda burns the tree. It's like he is baptized through fire so many times, and like that moment when the tree's on fire, it makes him do what he does for Crate, and yeah, it's just I don't know. I think Luke has so many visual things that happen to him in every movie that like must mean something from a story perspective. And I think fire is a sign of rebirth and a sign of, moving on in a weird way. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do y'all think
of
about?
Cleansing. Yeah.
Yeah, cleansing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alex, you got any? Yeah. Okay. I didn't know if you had.
No, I think you're right.
Did you notice anything in those scenes in particular that would make Luke want to do what he does? I don't know. It's odd.
No, I mean, I have never really thought of the separate scenes like that. I've never really gone through and been like, where are all the times that a sunrise or a sunset happens? Where are all the times that fire shows up?
Yeah.
Like I've never really looked at it through that lens before.
Oh, well, that's cool. Okay, well, I'm glad well, it's funny. I think that's the point of this whole little thing we're doing is like I'm really and Jerry has too. We've been breaking down just sections of these movies that like have to, for story and thematic purposes have to mean something. But here we go to the part that actually means nothing in the movie that everyone seems to remember, and it's the cantina scene, and the whole sequence of that is just, I don't know, it's such a memorable scene. That's the one scene my grandma brings up every time we talk about Star Wars. She's like, I just love the cantina scene. I just love all the aliens and how weird that was. And I'd imagine in 77 that was probably extremely jarring. Like that was probably so weird.
Well, yeah, I mean,
you know,
up until that point, it's all droids and humans.
Good point. Yeah, that is the only time you do start to see aliens. Wow.
Oh, well, Jawas, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah, you got the Jawas,
yeah.
but they're still, it's like just glowing eyes within a hood. You know, it's not really anything to write home about. Just
No.
kind of, that was actually that's very textbook for the time. Like usually aliens were something like that, you know, in the hoods and stuff. So
Yeah.
the cantina scene must have been like just groundbreaking.
Exactly.
It's like, what is going on? I'll say, again, right before we came in here, I was watching that scene with my 2-year-old, and I mean, I guess she's just got it in her DNA, man. She was just sitting there with a smile on her face, and I was just like, they're really silly looking, aren't they? Just like she thinks everything's just so funny looking, but just such a cool, eclectic mix of creatures that everyone tries to. Well, they've tried to recapture that magic a little bit in the newer films too.
I think they've done
one of them has a scene like that. You know, it's just quintessential Star Wars for people.
Definitely.
Mandalorian that's about to drop again. The time of this recording tomorrow, they kind of talk about like how Favreau was really just impressed with the cantina scene. How it just made him think like, what are the possibilities of this world where there's like a myriad of just different aliens and crazy creatures and different things you can go on adventures with. So I don't know. I'm just really excited for the Mandalorian. So.
What's the better song? I don't know the names. Alex might know them. What are the songs that Figure and Dan plays? It's
Cantina Band 1 and 2, isn't it?
But they have names, right?
I actually just won the Dragon Con trivia because I knew the name of the first one. That was the winning question. It's Mad About Me.
Yes.
Right.
What's the second one?
I don't know if the second one has a name.
The second one to me is far better. Like musically, it's just like so much jazzier. I don't know. I guess I remember hearing it in like Battlefront 2 from 2005. It's just like that's just like such a good song. I don't know.
It's brilliant.
I've got a fun story about Mad About Me. For my wedding, or Molly and my wedding, we wanted to walk into our reception to the disco remix of the Star Wars main theme. So we gave our DJ that. And I don't know how, but he played the Cantina song instead. So we walked into our reception to do. We were like, there's nothing we can do about this. I guess that's how we walk into our wedding.
Memories,
it's one of those
right?
moments you had to really kind of like, I'd imagine you kind of had to be like, okay, well, I guess I gotta go with it. Like that is
There's
amazing.
literally nothing we could have done except shout like from across the room, like, that's the wrong song.
Just like
you can't do that.
Like knock his turntable over. So. Yeah. No. You know what? Here we're the Bombadcast, and one Scotty. We've done an episode. We want to do another episode of like background weirdos, and what is more ripe with them than this? What is your favorite background weirdo in this scene?
Oh, wow.
Who's your favorite? Because there's so many. I was looking. I used to really love the Wolfman. Like
and he's gone.
Well, I noticed this time, actually, when you first walk in and everyone kind of turns to look at them, he's actually in the background still. Behind, I forget which character he's behind, but I saw that same Wolfman with the red eyes. I was like, there he is. He's still there. He's just not.
He didn't get his featured shot.
With whatever he looks at that, I'm losing all the names there. They replaced him with another species with the little hand puppet looking lamprey.
My favorite one, maybe Hammerhead, Mamau Nadon.
Oh yeah,
I always liked him.
Yeah,
I did always like the Deveronian
too. Such a
too.
Classic design. Yeah. Does that Deveronian have a name?
Yeah, I don't know it. It's ridiculous.
No,
it's like really hard to say.
Oh man, I also love the little. Oh, go ahead, Scotty. Go ahead.
No. I love Figure and Dan. Like as a kid to see like all those dudes up there and one's kind of like playing a drum, and it's just like
Yeah, grooving.
it's kind of weird. Like you don't think about music, alien music, and it's just the music is just it's jizz, but it's jazz. It's like it's
Just
such
wailing.
it's it's I guess to me Figure and Dan's probably the one that stands out the most. And oh wow, I forget their species name. The what's the what are they, y'all?
The Biff.
Oh no,
Uh,
Biff.
oh
Biff.
yeah, I thought you were talking about another thing. I was like, what thing are you talking about? Yeah,
No, it's cool that I know now. Doesn't Pablo do a panel almost every year for Celebration where he like you get to name a character or something crazy? Like what is that?
him and Tom Spina, they do like they go through the background of the cantina and just name these different background players, kind of talk about the actors and stuff. So
It's awesome.
it's very
amazing.
interesting. I think Blast Points even did like an episode about it too. So yeah, go check it. Shout out Blast Points. Go check them out too. I don't know. Dude.
Well,
Yeah,
we get introduced to Han in this moment, and I don't know. I wanted to say why is Han is like still so cool even for 2019. Like watching it like 2 nights ago, I'm like, this is the coolest dude in the world. Like
Yeah.
the whole delivery of Han is just amazing. The way he sits, the way he kind of tells him off, and it's so cool to think we also get a backstory about him now. We now know
Yeah.
why he's that way. Kinda.
You know, I never really thought about it, but you are absolutely correct. This movie made in 1977 plays still so well in very socially conscious 2019.
Yeah.
The cool dude's not like slapping the butts of the waitress or something.
No, no.
He's like he's just a cool dude. He don't give a care. And he's like, I'm gonna do what I can do to survive. And
Definitely.
Solo really does just add so much more. We unabashedly love Solo here at the Bombadcast. So hashtag make Solo 2 happen.
But yeah, Alex, what do you think of seeing Han in this movie versus what we know about him now?
I mean, Han was always the one that everyone wanted to be when you played pretend growing up. That is
true.
You make a good point that like he doesn't feel dated.
Yeah.
I think that's part of just the monomyth and how much Lucas leaned into that. I also enjoyed Solo. I also want Solo 2 to happen in some respect, whether it's a series or a book or whatever.
So you ended up giving Jonas Swadamo a T-shirt. The Resistance broadcast, didn't you?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, hey, there you go, man.
Yeah, like I don't know if the movie changed how I see Han though. Like I don't know, it's so burned into me the whole, especially the stuff with Greedo, which like I'm not a fan of. Even when I was 12 and I saw the special editions, I was like, why did they make Greedo shoot first? Like I liked the idea that Han was someone who you're like, oh, I don't know if they can totally trust this guy.
Yeah,
But then at the end, he comes back and saves the day. And like, that was the first
It
time.
gives a really good character arc. If you think about it from the original perspective, it does. It really does.
Because, I mean, it's so bizarre that you don't meet this character for like 45 minutes.
No.
This movie is so unconventional, especially compared to now,
It is.
where like you don't meet Luke for 15 minutes, you don't meet Han for 45 minutes, but he's immediately like, oh yeah, that's a main character. Like he feels like part of the main cast.
The way it's shot is incredible, and then with Chewie being there is also so. It's just cool to think like that's a dude under a mask, and like this movie it shouldn't have worked, especially with how everything looked. And every time I see this scene, I'm like, how did this work? And it caught the public eye by surprise, and especially with Harrison Ford being as suave as he is, it's just amazing. And one thing I will say, Jerry, I know you like the special editions. I don't mean to bash it.
No, you're fine. I understand. I'm a small minority. So.
No, I've been meaning to tell you this, Jerry, and I have an extra copy, Alex. I'm gonna give them to you too. I have the despecialized versions I ripped from a Blu-ray disc, ripped from a Blu-ray burner that Harmy, this guy who like took all the things and rescanned them. I don't know if y'all happen to have them, but I'm going to send you those for this episode. I have just an extra, like 2 extra sets that I don't know what to do with.
Oh, nice.
So, Merry Christmas to the both of you. But I absolutely hate the Jabba scene. I loathe it. I never realized how bad it was because I never watched it.
Yeah.
And then I'm watching it, and it's just Jabba's not that He's not like the oh no, Han, I got you, man. We're cool. Hate that. Jabba's supposed to be scary.
It doesn't help that it's the exact same conversation he has with Greedo.
That's the real problem.
I enjoy the special editions because that is the canon version.
Yes.
So for me as a canon junkie, I kind of love the little tidbits here and there, the filling out of the world. But hey man, I can admit, I know it's even though they redid the CG on Jabba, these movies, I was just noticing tonight, I was actually talking about technology and how we watch these movies now is casting it from my phone to my television. And
yeah, exactly.
Even like the Rontos and stuff that are walking around in Mos Eisley, I was like, you can see the shadows underneath their feet. I'm like, well, this is so, oh my gosh, it's like a complete game. I'm hoping we're gonna get. I don't know if we're gonna get like the despecialized editions released on a Blu-ray or something. I think they do that for sure. But I would almost like to see a complete like revamp of the special.
I agree. If they
better like fix up the lightsabers in A New Hope and things like that. I don't know. And I still love the classic, the cool like gritty look of it too. But I don't know, I can. It's not the best scene, but for canon, I enjoy that Jabba and Boba are like right there.
Me too. I like the inclusion of Boba Fett. I really do, because it makes more sense in the overall trilogy. But what the one gripe I have with it, if it didn't end with this phrase, I wouldn't be so upset. He turns to Jabba and says, "Jabba, you're a wonderful human being," and he gets in the Falcon. I'm like, what?
I love that, because to me that's just Han. That's Han being like,
Is it?
I think to me I've always it's like you're a wonderful. It's like a quip. He's like
it was the first time I watched it. It's the first time I watched it that way.
Yeah.
I've only seen the THX versions. Then I got the Blu-rays in 2015, and then I got the Harmy despecialized ones, and I got that in 2016. And I've only watched the Harmy despecialized. And I'm like, I don't have a Blu-ray disc for my computer. Might as well watch this DVD. And I was so shocked by that last line. It totally threw me through a loop.
Wait, like you saw that scene for the first time?
Yes.
Oh, are you kidding me? Oh, wow.
Alex, I had seen clips of it. I had never watched it in the movie, in the sequence of the movie.
Yeah, you're too young to have seen them in the theater. Oh,
I was. It was 97.
Did you see the original scene, like before they put the Jabba effects and everything?
Oh, with that wasn't in the Harmy despecialized versions, but yes, I've seen the deleted scene where it's this big fat guy and a
big Scottish
Irish
guy,
Irish,
but like obviously he was a human being at that point. But I think it feels like a Han line at the end to just be like,
it does. I can agree to it. It's just the first time I was like, what did I just watch? It was like this awful, like, I don't know. Maybe I'm
what amazes me is that's what got you and not him stepping over Jabba's tail. So
that didn't bother me because it looks bad. I can accept that. I can accept that something looks bad. It's the line that gets me.
Yeah.
Jabba,
I don't know. We'll have to do it, Scotty. I'm already like planning in my head that you're gonna have to do like a back and forth about the. I'm gonna have to like do some therapy sessions with you, the podcast of the special edition. So we should have like a Kramer versus Kramer kind of episode after TROS comes out.
Yeah, I guess we're gonna have to, because that irked the hell out of me when I first watched it. I'm not gonna lie, I couldn't believe it, and I wrote it, and I had to write it in the show notes. So I guess anyway, we get to the Falcon. We finally see this ship, and it's it's kind of cool. I like that Luke calls it a piece of junk, and then Rey,
what a piece of junk.
The garbage will do. It's just like, I love that. I love that it's kind of funny to make fun of the Falcon, and it wasn't ugly at all in Solo until Han, of course, did his magic and made it very, very destroyed, and
It's like a 1999 Chevy Lumina. of our universe, but like Han is like I used to drive one of those for a job, and I was like that was my Falcon because you could just beat the crap out of it, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But Han was a much better mechanic than me, so I'm not gonna give myself that.
No, I think one thing that, of course, JJ did so with The Force Awakens was all these visual stuff and how he kind of frames stuff in the scene. But there's that one shot of Han running onto the Falcon. It's like your first inside view of the Falcon, and it's like he runs to it and he like slams the door shut, and then he takes off for the cockpit when the stormtroopers are firing at him. If you watch that now and you think about everything that ship's been through since that moment, it's amazing. It's amazing to think of the stories inside of that ship and like how many important things happened throughout these movies that are in regards to that ship. I love it. I think the Falcon will live on in The Rise of Skywalker. I hope.
They're not going to destroy the Falcon.
There's no way you can destroy the Falcon.
Chewie's not. I'm sorry. I don't think Chewie's going out. I don't think the droids are going out. They're not going to.
I'm with you 100%.
I mean, why get rid of all those things? I know that's just like such a hot button, like that's what everyone grabs onto, and I'm like, no, you're looking in the wrong direction. Like that's the stuff that they'll never be able to make. No, I mean, they can still make they probably would sell a ton of Red Millennium Falcon t-shirts and make so happy, but
yeah. Well, it's like the article you see. So the article you see by We Got This Covered or like comic book news, like rumor Falcon is destroyed in the Rise of Skywalker. You're like, who is literally? Yeah, no. So I guess you. I'm sorry, I don't mean to kind of cut into it, but I just got the notification that they dropped a special feation.
I got that.
Did y'all want to
know if you guys
break and maybe watch it and come back to it?
Hold on, where are we looking?
A special look,
Twitter,
Disney Plus.
The Mandalorian and Star Wars just tweeted out the special.
Okay. Hey, you wanna watch it together?
Yeah, sure. Let's do that. Excellent.
Here,
Alex, can you share your screen? Or
I was gonna say we can just get it all pulled up and paused, and then we can go 3, 2, 1 and hit play.
Okay, cool.
Well, let me get.
We'll have this live. This is awesome. Sorry about that, y'all. We had to watch the Mando sneak peek. We were all sitting here talking about Star Wars. Everyone's phone unanimously went, and we all looked and we're like, all right, let's stop talking about Star Wars to watch Star Wars.
We gotta stop this.
We've got to talk. We've got to stop talking about this old movie to talk about the new thing that's coming out tomorrow. But anyway, we're back. We're kind of on the Death Star now. I know we jumped a little bit. We just want to get through the conversation here, talking about what happens in this movie. In particular, I love this next scene because they're on the Death Star. The Falcon has been pulled in by the tractor beam, and we get the great line from Darth Vader, I sense something, a presence I have not felt since, then turns his head.
Just leaves. I always laugh at
I love how sharply Vader turns and all. It's like
all of it.
Empire, I really want to like talk about like the guy he like turns and he's like right in his face. Yeah, General Veers like turns around. This reminds me of that so much, but I love that.
Well, it's weird because you see the same exact thing between Kylo and Han when he's on Starkiller, and it's kind of cool that they kind of did a weird tribute to it. And he's like, he doesn't say that's a presence. He just goes, Han Solo, right? Is that what he says? Mm-hmm. It's just I sense. No, does he even say I sense something?
Just
I don't
says
even
the
remember
name. Yeah,
no, he just says Han Solo.
I love it.
Like, and it's funny because he's just like his grandpa. He's right in the middle of talking to somebody, and he just stops and goes Han Solo. Han Solo. And probably walked away sharply too. So.
But like, I think it's cool that it's something that Rebels ended up using a lot too. Is when they all put on the stormtrooper outfits and they just walk through the Death Star. It's just like it's something that you end up seeing a lot in Rebels, and it's like a big thing that happens. It's kind of cool that they kind of planted that seed with this. Well, I guess if we dress up as them, no one's going to ask anything about it, which makes sense. Let's be real. I think, of course, they get to the top and they leave R2 and them there. There's one line that is very, I wish it was quoted more. It's your destiny lies along a different path than mine. It's what Obi-Wan says to Luke. And it's really fitting for the overall story of everything to the Rise of Skywalker, but it's also really fitting for like just this sequence in the actual, movie itself. Like Luke doesn't know what that means, but I think Obi-Wan knows at that point exactly what he's going to end up doing. and how he's going to end up saving everyone in this moment. You know what I mean? I don't know. What do y'all think of that, Jerry? And that line in particular, your destiny lies along a different path than mine.
It's really just him. Again, Obi-Wan is really just trying to give Luke those nuggets of truth, the stuff he needs to continue on his journey, but also
Yeah.
like he's got to be sensing like I don't know, like I'm feel like I'm coming to the end of my road, so I've really got to kind of give this kid what I can right now before
Yeah.
I don't man
Well,
myself in the Force.
it's the last time they talk. I mean, you got to realize that.
Yeah.
It's the last conversation they have, and I think Luke has already grown very attached to him, and it's pretty awesome. Alex, what do you think of that line?
Yeah, I think he might at this point know he might have to sacrifice himself. He's like, I think he's gonna go shut the tractor beam down and then go find Vader. I think he knows
Yeah.
what's up. Maybe he's just trying to get out of an awkward conversation. Be like, I don't want to tell you about your dad. I'm just gonna go get killed.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's crazy because it's something, and that we can totally be brought up later. But it's something that Luke learns from him, and I love that Vader knows the intentions of Obi-Wan's personality. It's amazing. He's like, escape is not his plan. He's talking to Tarkin. Escape is not his plan, and I must face him alone. It's just
How does Vader know that?
I don't know. And I love that, though, because it might be the intent of Obi-Wan. He's so old now, and it's interesting. And, like, don't underestimate the Force, and all those lines that Vader kind of spits out there is it's almost, like, kind of, he's wise, too. Like, Vader has grown in wisdom. As much as he's a Sith, and he's all-powerful, and he wants to be all-powerful, he's as, I guess, prophetic as the Jedi are too, because he was once a Jedi. He knows what it's like to tap into that foresight and kind of predict what may happen, and especially with Obi-Wan's personality being so, he's gonna finish what he started. Kind of, he's got a kind of that mentality, But yeah, no, I think it's interesting because this leads to Leia being a take charge personality too, and we get that from Padme totally in the prequels.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's kind of cool to see it happen in canonically and looking at it from a chronological perspective. And she saves their asses. I mean, she completely saves them in that situation. They don't know what to do. She takes the gun, blows the hole through it. Get in there. It's like, I love it. I love that.
Again, I didn't make it all the way through tonight before I came to record this, but just like we got to that sequence where they're breaking out and Leia does that, and again, my lovely wife is a casual Star Wars fan. She likes the story for what it is and stuff, but isn't like as consumed maybe.
Yes.
But she like noticed for some reason that line this time where how she loved that like Han, as soon as she does that, he looks at Luke and goes, "Some girl is like either I'm gonna kill her or I'm starting to like her." Or something.
Yeah.
Just like, and the look, like she was laughing at the look that Luke kind of gives, like the back and forth, like whoa. So it's kind of interesting that whole just immediately that chemistry that those three have.
It's really good.
Fantastic. I mean, even Peter, as Chewbacca, just kind of like really. I mean, I don't know, just the whole thing. It's just so intoxicating, so just amazing. So
Well, unfortunately, we learned from the prequels that chemistry is a really big thing. Like, chemistry is huge in these kind of movies. You know what I mean? Like, just little stuff. Like, their big three, the reason why I think everyone gravitates towards them in this movie and in Return of the Jedi is because of this sequence and how they speak to each other and how they handle certain situations. It's amazing. I don't know. I love it. And hopefully we'll get that with Finn, Poe, and Rey. I know, Alex, you've been a big supporter of just seeing all of them together. And Resistance Reborn, I'm like 4 hours in, and I'm starting to get some good stuff. Like, I'm really starting to get some good stuff now.
Yeah.
Like,
I was a little bummed, like, they were so split off in The Last Jedi, but it fits the formula of the trilogy where they kind of all go off to grow on their own. I'm ready for a romp together in Rise of Skywalker. I love especially Finn and Poe together. That I'll always remember that being the moment in The Force Awakens where I was like, they did it. I'm on board. I love it.
You're in.
Yeah, that me too. I was the same way with that scene. That scene is just so Star Wars fun.
It is. It's really pure, and I think
But
that's one
that
thing.
was the most. Oh, sorry, Scotty. I was just
No.
I did with Rise of Skywalker. That was one of the most exciting things to come out of JJ saying, "No, they're going to go on an adventure together."
It's awesome. You're right.
It's just such a cool. Who knew that that's what we wanted? I mean,
Yeah.
we did, and so we're glad. I'm glad we're getting it. So.
No, it's cool because it does play into that overall idea of chemistry and how important it is to see these actors work together to achieve a goal. And I am stoked for December for that reason too. And one thing I wanna kind of get into a little not an Easter egg, but something that I forget, that R2 when he's on the Death Star, he's not just in the computer terminal. He's like ripping files, like he's like, file sharing, and like he's like torrenting stuff. Like it's amazing because
the first Jedi Temple, that's going to come in handy someday.
yeah, well, things like that, like the map of the galaxy, and like it's amazing because I love that JJ stuck to his material, and I think he's gonna do that with The Rise of Skywalker with Revenge of the Sith. But that's for anyone who didn't listen to that episode yet. You'll get it now. But yeah, at the time of recording, Alex had an opportunity to listen to it. But we think that a lot of the open-ended storytelling that JJ is going to tie up is from Revenge of the Sith. Like, I'm convinced of that. And it's cool that he kind of tied up this little story, too. He's sitting there in the computer terminal, and he's like, yeah, R2 ripped all that. I mean, that's why he knows.
Yeah, R2's just like, well, I'm going to steal while I'm here. Like,
yeah. He's just bored.
Yeah, he is, and it's really kind of cool. And of course, you get Obi-Wan Walker on the Death Star, and the line where they get out the trash compactor is my favorite Harrison Ford line. The way he delivered it. No reward is worth this. Like, we've all been in that situation where, like, we're trying to achieve a goal, and it's like, nothing, this is not worth this outcome. Like, I don't care what, as much as I'm going through. That's how I feel about working out. I don't know why. Like, no reward is worth this. Like, I can't, I hate working out. I've tried it for years, and every time I go to try to lift weights or do something like that, I'm like, it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. There's no reward that is worth this at all. I could win $1 million. I don't like it. I hate it.
There's a Dunkin' Donuts around the corner.
Exactly.
Come
on. Another line that's paralleled, and I have to bring it up because we talked about it a couple of days ago, was the line with the stormtroopers, and they're talking about, they're hiding and they're just talking about, I guess, ships, and then Obi-Wan does the Force thing, and he goes, "What's that?" And he's like, "That's nothing." And I didn't realize it until watching this movie. Like, oh my God, Revenge of the Sith did the same exact line with the super battle droids. He goes, "What's that?" And he goes, "That's nothing." And then they go back to going through the Jedi Starfighter. I just love those parallels are very kind of interesting, that George maybe was intentional, or it might just be George, the way George talks. I don't know. That has to be intentional.
I think he's definitely trying. He's just trying to press your nostalgia buttons and go like, see, this is Star Wars. Look.
Yeah. No, I like that, and of course, a scene that a lot of people remember that I often forget about. My grandma talks about this scene when we talk about Star Wars too. Is the Luke and Leia grapple hook jump? Like, everyone loves that. I forget that even exists. Like, that's a huge scene, and like, I don't know. Like the matte painting on Earth, forget seeing the behind the scenes and the matte painting of like how deep it is. It's a pretty cool shot. But I don't know. What do y'all think of that whole, just the grapple hook, and gives her a kiss in the cheek and they swing? It's so 1930s. It's so like Indiana Jones too.
I've got
a weird way.
The Errol Flynn scene. Yeah.
I've got a little headcanon that Luke was subconsciously using the Force to do that, because that's a ridiculous throw that he makes.
It makes no sense. It makes no sense.
The only other people you see throw a grappling hook like that it's Obi-Wan and Anakin, so it's got to be a thing. So
and Revenge of the Sith, you're right.
I mean, ultimately, I think it's just one of those, like, it's an adventure movie, and like, of course he does it, but with the Force and everything, I'm like, that's absurd.
Of course, it's a magnetic hook.
Yeah.
Oh, right now.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, it's cool what this moment leads to, with all of them ultimately escaping. And the Vader Obi-Wan fight happens, and it's actually got pretty good dialogue. I like the. I'm sure everyone's pointed this out before, but I love bringing it up. Is the way Alec Guinness does the line Darth, which of course that's his first name, I guess at the time, Darth Vader.
Can't win,
right.
Darth.
Yeah, it's just so funny because it sounds like he's mocking him the whole time. You cannot win, Darth. Like it's just, I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
so
almost
much.
like making light that he, the side that he chose. You think you're all big and bad, but
Darth.
yeah, okay, Darth, whatever you say. It's the boomer of Star Wars for
Hot
sure.
topic,
Like, all right,
Jerry. There you
Darth,
go. There we
we are
go.
relevant.
Which then leads to the if you strike me down, I will become more powerful than you can imagine, which is such a cool thing that I don't think Luke heard that, but the fact that Luke says it in TLJ similarly, not exactly, is just amazing. And it's cool to think that Luke learned from Obi-Wan in that way.
Right.
Obi-Wan, that was a distraction. That whole death was just so they could escape with the plans and be out of there. They have the princess. Everything is complete, And the fact that Luke does the same exact action is just... That's why I love TLJ. I think that's like one of the biggest reasons that ending sequence is like... That's what sold me for it. Jerry, I know you could talk about TLJ forever. And you know what? I don't think I've ever heard
We'll have to
Alex
save
talk
that for
about
a
it.
few-
Yeah.
were you
Alex, do you like that ending sequence with Luke and everything? I haven't watched your TLJ videos since it came out. Like now being 2 years retrospective.
Yes. The stuff with Luke, I was a little iffy on Luke at the start. I was like, why is he being like this? But then once you get the reveal that why Kylo turned on him and why he went into hiding, I was like, oh, okay, I get why you would feel that way now.
Right.
And the rest of everything with Luke, I was all for. So, yes.
Yeah. It's this idea
like
of him
people-
being... Oh, go, Jerry.
Go ahead. Well, I was gonna say it's almost like people who and you don't have to like this movie at all, but it's funny like people who are vehemently against it. They always like talk about how Luke was never really a hero. I mean, at the beginning, like you're saying, Alex, he at the beginning, of course, he's like, what's going on with this guy? Like we were all like, what the heck is wrong with him? And of course, he's got to go through this arc of like, no, he finally picks up that mantle again, and I mean. He does what he needs to do. He gives his life to make sure that the Resistance survives.
Definitely.
It's a deconstruction of what Star Wars is about and the hero and being what being a hero is. I'm sorry, I'm reminding myself of The Office. A hero kills people. Anyway, sorry, but it's a reaffirmation ultimately, and too.
You bring up a good point because this death, Obi-Wan's death, was to me the turn from Luke being just a farm boy to being a hero. I think he saw that sacrifice. And another weird thing you got to think about, Vader still has that lightsaber. I don't know if that's going to mean anything, but that lightsaber
I didn't
fell.
even think about that.
Yeah, that lightsaber is still there. I don't know if that's ever going to come into play. I don't know if there's been canon that's
Did it get vaporized?
I don't know. Did it get vaporized? I don't know. It's a good point. It probably did.
I know in Legends it did not, and Vader kept it. But in canon for now, I assume that it did get vaporized. I don't know why Vader would have tossed it in his pocket. He didn't. I don't think he thought the Death Star was going to blow up.
Right.
Well, it goes to show you that like these subtleties, especially in these movies, have such a big impact for the overall story. Like, of course, with Obi-Wan picking up, Anakin's saber, then it's going to be Luke's saber is really big. And this passing of the saber thing, it only seems like it's going to happen with Anakin's saber. But I would love to see a comeback of the green saber, of Luke's from Return of the Jedi, if they ever do that in, The Rise of Skywalker. One thing I want to bring up real quick about that sacrifice, becoming one with the Force, is such a big thing that is often kind of not really... not that it's not discussed, it's just not seen in this light. But the one line from Attack of the Clones that actually has stuck with me since this rewatch is that a Jedi needs to be compassionate. Okay? Doesn't say anything about love. This is the exact line from Anakin. He goes, a Jedi's job is to ultimately be compassionate. And what's more compassionate than sacrificing yourself for the sake of the greater good and for the sake of the story and the sake of this person's life. And you see that Obi-Wan is that compassionate to do that. And then Vader's that compassionate. I mean, he realizes what that means whenever he's seeing his son getting shocked and killed before him. And then Luke, then it's like they all learn from their masters. It's kind of incredible that one
They
Obi-Wan
are what we grow
death.
beyond.
Yeah, they are what we grow beyond.
Yeah.
That one Obi-Wan death might in some weird way convince Vader to do that same exact action, which will then convince Luke to sacrifice himself, and the ultimate sign of compassion. It's really kind of incredible. I don't know, the Jedi now, it seems like almost when you bring up Jedi, you think of the prequels and you're like, ugh, the Jedi, a bunch of morons. But hopefully Rey will bring a new light to that and what we see that happens after these movies. I don't know. One other thing I want to bring up, our storytellers, R2 and 3PO are there the whole time on the Death Star. So another thing you can kind of throw in there, JJ, just a little
chalk up Ray put another scratch on the wall for them.
Yeah.
In the story.
So we get a great scene after this. It's the Falcon TIE attack. I mean, we could talk about that scene forever. I think the one line that's super important is
Great
what do you
score.
think? What do you think? You think a princess and a guy like me? And then Luke, no. I love that. Because then later, it's cool to think that their son is named after the man that brought them together. And I'm going to be real. When they said Ben the first time in The Force Awakens and Han yells Ben, ooh, was that like just a good punch. Like, it made me realize, like, what a better name. And I know Legends, he had the same name, I think. Or maybe his name was Anakin. I don't remember.
It was
Skywalker.
Ben Skywalker, yeah.
That
So,
was
like,
Luke's son.
but, like, I love that they went back and did Ben Solo, too. It's just, that's great. I don't know. What did y'all think of that? Like, that implication of the fact they named their kid after Obi-Wan. I mean, Jerry, what do you think of that? I think it's amazing.
I just think it's a cool detail. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just they brought them. He is the reason they ended up coming together. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't they want to? I know people are like, well, he didn't really mean anything to them. They didn't really know it. But, like,
That's the point.
it's and we don't know what how you name people in Star Wars.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
What about you,
Alex? What do you
I'm
think?
a little iffy on it just because, like, I don't think Han cared all that much and Leia didn't know him. It seemed like almost Luke was like, hey, you know what a great name would be? Obi-Wan. And they're like,
Yeah.
no. He's like, how about Ben?
We'll compromise.
Yeah, exactly. I think Obi-Wan would have been way too on the nose. But Ben,
Yeah, obviously.
if Ben is so
Obi-Wan
much.
Solo. Oh my gosh. Okay, we gotta move on. My goodness.
They get to Yavin. I love that the Yavin base looks just like the car. I think it's kind of cool. I don't know. I like that. I think it's silly. But I wrote Rouge One. Rogue One has so much more
a very
depth
different movie.
now. But yeah, Moulin Rouge. Rogue One, to me now, and with what Galen did, and the fact that he put that flaw in the Death Star is just like, when they revealed that in Rogue One, that, like, this whole thing was planned, I put that there so they could blow it up, is like, watching that in the theater was amazing. Like,
Yeah.
It made the Death Star plans way more of just, oh, we found a place to blow it up, to being like, this was planned. Like, this dude put work into this thing for you to blow it up. It has a weakness.
Right.
There is a planted weakness. I don't know. Having that be the scene now, I think it makes that scene way better. I don't know. What about y'all? What do you think of that? I think it makes the scene way better.
Totally agree. I think that was one of the best ideas Rogue One had, was to retcon that a little bit, because people have been making fun of that. For Robot Chicken made fun of it. Family Guy made fun of it.
Yes, it did. I remember that.
Yeah. Put some plywood over that.
Like, we can't do anything about this, but then to have that shouldn't have worked in the first place, except for the fact that Galen made the reactor a ticking time bomb is awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
totally.
And still, and I've heard people say that it takes away from Luke even, but even though he made it, you had to make the shot, and to make the shot was another
Yeah.
insane maneuver you had to do. So they needed a Jedi, of course.
Yeah, they did, and they didn't turn. You turn off your computer, Luke. One thing I kind of want to get into, and it's kind of paralleled TFA a little bit when Rey and Finn split, and then they give them the reason why. It's not as dramatic as this one, but it's cool because when they split, you can tell on Han's face like he knew he kind of made a mistake whenever Luke walks away and he's moving crates onto that little conveyor belt thing. And
Chewie is being passive aggressive to him too.
very passive.
Hey,
Exactly. I love that because then the ultimate payoff, which I think is the one thing in the 70s might have been for modern movie making and watching, you can see that kind of come in from a mile away. But like in the 70s, I think that really was a shock when he flies back in. Yahoo!
Oh, yeah.
And that had to have been so shocking for then. But I feel like that happens almost in every movie now. Someone saves the day.
chills.
Well, I think. I get chills every time, but I think like this established the trope.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Had to have. And,
what about I love the Galaxy. Okay, real quick, the Galaxy of Adventures short that is like from Han's perspective of him actually coming in to say, like, I love that bit of extra. Like, I don't know, it's just really good.
Okay. Anyway, so then we meet Biggs, and this Biggs guy, he seems pretty important. There's this
Immediately,
YouTuber.
you're like, "Where's this guy been this whole movie?"
Yeah.
This is the star.
This is
this
hero
YouTuber
of the story,
like
of course.
stands him, and it's weird to watch his videos. He like talks about him in like great detail and loves and like cosplays at him. Yeah, I don't know if you ever heard of him. Little guy named Star Wars Minute. Total dweeb.
Can we give
really, Alex? Let's hear.
I was gonna say let's give Alex the floor here, man. Hey, gush on some Biggs here, man. Give it to us.
I think he's done.
I mean, look at that mustache, and look at like the one thing that I will say was a tragic loss from the deleted scene is he looks so fly in that.
That's
cape.
a great look.
Dude.
I do love that costume.
Lando,
the white
he
jacket,
established the cape look.
we thought Lando invented the cape, man, but no, it was Biggs, right?
Hell no.
It is funny how many I have 6 action figures, I think, and most of them are just him in the flight suit. But there's also he's got a handful of looks and a variety of action figures for a character who is barely in the movie.
That is fantastic.
Oh man. I mean, he honestly, like, that little interaction they have before he gets on the X-Wing is really kind of cool. And, like, it's the first one that Luke kind of has, like, a dude bro moment with. Like, it really is. Like, he doesn't do that with Han, doesn't do that with Obi-Wan. It's a weird form of relationship you don't see pretty much throughout, actually, almost any movie after this. No one has like, I'm so glad you're here, man. Oh man, we'll talk about it when we get back. It's so,
dude, you may have just made me realize why I love Finn and Poe so much. Is like they have that energy.
Yeah, I was thinking
like it is the same energy where like Luke and Big see each other and they're like, oh my god, it's so good to see you. And yeah, you're right.
Yeah, dude. Hey, it's your dream come true if Biggs came back, not to rub salt in the wound and stuff. It's just, that's what Finn and Poe. It's the ultimate version of that for sure.
I guess it really is kind of a personification of it, and I think we're gonna get more of it in Rise of Skywalker, especially on that little speeder they're going on, and the part where Finn does the Yahoo, the typical Finn. Woo!
Trying to stop myself from talking about Rise of Skywalker, Revenge of.
Hold it back, man. Hold it back.
Not yet.
I really can't wait to like be in that movie in that theater. But guess back to this one. I do love Biggs. Like I love the name. I think it's one of those characters that wished deserves more moments. I thought he was going to show up in Rebels, and damn it, when he didn't. Or I guess he didn't. Right? Am I thinking?
No.
They almost put him in place of Wedge in that one episode.
Oh, could you imagine if he went off to the academy and did? Oh, damn it, that would have been great. I don't know. I think that would have been really good, and for the sake of you, Alex, I think it'd be pretty awesome too. Maybe we'll get something. Maybe Mando. I don't know. Oh, Mando's never mind. Actually, Mando's way beyond that. Maybe Kenobi. I mean, you never know.
Could have a young Biggs.
Be kind of cool.
Could you imagine?
A 10-year-old Biggs, but he still has a mustache.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be epic. Like, I have a glandular disorder. It makes me really cool.
Look at this cape I made.
This cape I made.
Which leads into the ultimate
very good
scene that actually I think. Yeah, no, like fantastic. He's a quilter. No one knows it. The Death Star run is amazing still to this day. I think this is weird, but I've never heard anyone really touch base on it. Was R2-D2's quote unquote death in that moment like intentionally done by Vader? I mean, do you really think that was like he noticed him, or maybe not?
I never got that impression, but
okay,
maybe that would make his shot more impressive.
Yeah,
it would be. Bam, just blows off the astromech.
I don't even know if
that
even
scene
Vader,
still kind of hurts me.
As dark as he is, could do that to. I feel like R2-D2 is the only character that Vader couldn't bring himself. If it was,
I've murdered children, but that's a step too far.
I'm not going to go there. Are you kidding me? You know what Twitter would be like?
Oh.
You know, like, I mean, come
on. I love this. I love that the dog fighting is so well cut together. Like, it really is. Like, it's so incredible. It almost makes today's movies not even that we haven't got a good dog fight yet. Really, hopefully Rise of Skywalker is going to change that. It looks like it's going to, but it's so freaking good in this movie. It feels like you're watching an old war movie. And one thing I think is very kind of cool that Ryan totally put in TLJ was the fact that they were using turrets the whole time to try to take out these X-Wings, and that they're like, no, we need to send the smaller ships out. And you just get, a handful of TIE fighters for this movie, pretty much? Yeah, I love that. It's very similar, and it's sad to see Porkins go and Red Leader and everyone. It's kind of sad. Yeah. The music cue is great.
No, it's like I thought that they did an amazing job, and one of the reasons I just love the pilots in the trench run, I think, is that you feel like everyone gets this moment to die, and you're like, what's this guy's story? And like, why aren't we talking about it? Is a bummer every time one gets wiped out.
Totally a bummer. And of course, I think Rogue One did so well with bringing back those old clips of them and throwing it. That was honestly, if anything shocked me the most, if I did like a top 3, I think it was the Vader. Then I love the fact that they cut the Star Destroyer in half in Rogue One. And then I actually told John Knoll that at Celebration. I said the fact that y'all did that was amazing. He happened to be behind me at one of the panels when we were walking in. But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to do a little
nice flex, bro.
It's a flex. But that part in particular with the gold leader and earlier, like, I'll never forget, I was like sitting next to Katie. I'm like, no, what? I was like,
same exact thing with me and Allison. What? Yeah.
I would have fallen out of my chair if there weren't a back to it. Like, I just went into the back. How?
It fits so perfectly too. It didn't even like take me out. I was like, of course, yeah.
Yeah,
they would be around.
It was so good.
So
I want to watch Rogue One now. I gotta keep the eye on the prize, man.
You got to keep the eye on the prize. No, the great part of this is the whole implications of the Force. Like, Luke, trust your feelings and all that. And then it's cool to think that Vader was a skilled pilot. I love that. The fact that he was a pilot really before he was anything. I mean, before he was a Jedi, he was a pilot, and that Vader, was just commanding the other two troopers to do exactly what he wanted to do. And then Vader took a lot of things into his own hands in the trench run. And honestly, if Han did interject, I think the story would be a very different story. And I think Vader couldn't predict it. I don't know. I love that Vader doesn't die too. I think it's really kind of cool that Vader doesn't die.
Be a weird trilogy if he did, though. It'd be the prequels.
Yeah, it would be
some
the
other. They get Tarkin becomes the next apprentice or something. So darn, that didn't even work.
I want to bring Tarkin into it real quick. one thing that didn't dawn on me too recently is that Tarkin would not leave the base. He was so headstrong on winning that he would not leave the Death Star. And everyone's like, "All right, we got your ship ready. Are you ready?" And he's like, "No, I'm not leaving. Why? Why would I leave?" What do you say? The
In our moment of triumph,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you overestimate their chances.
Yes.
I love the
I think it's
chances
cool
too.
because
I love the way he talks.
it shows how committed Tarkin is to this and how invested he is. And the crazy thing is, Hux up and freaking leaves. Like, he's like, "We gotta go. I'm ditching this place."
I'm out.
It just shows, like, even though the First Order is way more tyrannical, I think the Empire was way more convinced that what they were doing was, I don't guess that at the same time, now that I think about it, Hux saw that Starkiller was being destroyed, whereas Tarkin didn't see it. I don't know. I just think it's cool that Tarkin was so adamant on staying on the ship. I'm staying on the base. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
yeah.
His
It
arrogance
shows
to
his
a T
character.
right there, right?
There you go. And one thing I think is pretty cool is the only people left were Biggs, Wedge, and Luke. And then Wedge got knocked out of there, and of course he comes back apparently. And not now, but in canon now he's back.
Watching
It's
The
an amazing
Mandalorian.
appearance. Yeah. One thing real quick. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interject. Resistance Reborn. Hopefully everyone listening right now has had a chance to get through it, or at least knows Wedge comes back.
Spoilers for
y'all,
the first half.
That return is amazing.
I mean, it's on the
And-
cover.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Well, yeah. We all know that
the way
Wedge
they
is
tell
there.
it.
But it was more.
Well,
than I thought it
the
was
one
going to
thing
be,
that
his introduction.
yes, it was. I guess I'm going to put a spoiler warning, so if anyone hasn't read it, just skip ahead a little bit. When he learns about Luke's death, I had alligator tears. I
Yeah.
literally, I took off my headphones. I'm like, son of a bitch! Like, they did not just take it there.
I told you.
It
I
was
sent
so
you gifts
hard.
whenever I said get ready to cry, man. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the
I
one
knew
part that. And Star Wars gets me emotional,
Me
but
too,
my
man. Me too.
God, did that like hit home when he's like, "No, a Jedi can't die. He's not dead." I'm like, And I know, Alex, you probably read that a month ago because you've had the book for a while. But
No, I actually didn't get that one till a couple days before it came out.
Oh, nice.
wow,
It's random. It's random when we get the books.
Oh, really?
So
okay, well,
that
little
one
tidbit
was
there.
when I had to read a little faster.
Yeah,
Nice.
obviously, yeah. No, I love that. I love that Wedge's return is just bettered by, it's just it's so much better than what I expected, of course, in the book. And we'll see it in The Rise of Skywalker, hopefully. That's the one thing I want to talk about too with Biggs in particular. That death of Biggs' death, it's a sad death, but you got to think about the implication of Biggs' death. Everything that Luke knows about Tatooine, everything he loved about it, was taken from him all in one day. Baru, even the homestead he lived at for years, and then his best friend was taken from him. And I wish it was more in depth than just a one shot where Luke's like, no, he's upset. But like, y'all, that is Anakin to a T.
Yeah.
Anakin losing his parent, his mom.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get the Disney Plus series someday of Luke mourning Biggs.
That actually in Heir to the Jedi.
Yeah.
That's a book that people kind of
wow.
malign, but there is a great scene where Luke kind of goes a little dark thinking about everyone that he's just recently lost. And I was like, I like that scene out of that book.
I think I remember I remember that scene too. Not to give any spoilers for another book that's been out for like 5 years, but no, that scene, if I'm thinking of the exact same one, Alex, that affected me as well. It was really dark. It was a very poignant moment.
Yeah.
Give all the books a
definitely.
chance, guys. Give all the books a chance.
Well, the scene after this, of course, we have Luke, fixing to make the shot. Vader's right behind him. I mean, the way it's edited is like, even to this day, I've seen this movie maybe 200 times, like on the edge of my seat. Each time, I'm like, it's just so, the music, the moment is just freaking phenomenal. And then to cut the tension, you hear, yahoo, swoops in, and that shot's still so nice. Shoots Vader out the sky, and it's just, it's perfect. I don't know. That is so amazing, and it's great character development because you go from being like, oh man, Han's kind of a jerk, to being like, oh, you know what, I like this dirty dog.
Yeah.
this old chunk of coal.
Everybody's favorite scoundrel.
It's cool to think that when Vader is spinning out, that the Death Star is then blown up. Like, imagine that. Like, what do I do? Like, where do I go? And who do I get in touch with? Because everyone he knows, except for all the other Star Destroyers, apparently, and the Super Star Destroyer, are all, like, gone. You know what I mean? Palpatine's still out there. But, like, the best is the robot chicken is you've been floating around there for how long?
Yeah.
Oh, you must smell like leathery...
Burnt
the line
bacon,
there?
burnt leathery bacon wrapped around feet or something. It's pretty gross, yeah. Call back to Lost Stars, I think. Isn't there like a part in Lost Stars where like Sienna and Windrider, Nash Windrider, they have to go pick up Vader or something? Is that, am I getting that correct? Or?
No, you're right.
Okay, cool.
He just kind of chills there for a while.
And that's a great scene in that book too. So man, I think I'm gonna like re-listen to that thing for sure. Work.
So yeah, I love that when they get back to the base, everyone's so happy to see each other, and the big infamous Carrie, like line that was apparently said that Mark Hamill was like, "No, I didn't say Carrie. I
It
said
sounds
Leia."
like "hey" to me.
It does sound like "hey." It does.
That's
like,
what
hey.
I hear, but I might be hearing what I want to hear.
Myself, yeah.
No, I never heard Carrie either. The camaraderie is amazing in this scene. Everyone's shaking and hugging each other. And apparently, the next scene, the throne, like the ward ceremony scene, the throne room. Is it the throne room? What do they call
Throne
it?
room.
Yeah, throne room. That scene is hilarious because apparently Mark has said in interviews when they're walking up it, like these British, what do they call them? Extras were like cursing at him as they're walking up. They were like we don't want to be here. F you, all this. And it's just really funny to think like they're all walking so noble, like they just won this big battle, and they're walking up, and these British dudes are like probably in the year cursing them out. I love that. That's like really funny.
Have you seen the Arlenauts video of the throne room without the Williams?
That's what I was gonna bring up because that is so funny.
It's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite YouTube videos.
I love that he
so
throws
funny.
the random coughs in too. Like,
Yeah.
so awkward. I love it.
It's what would have happened.
It's like watching The Office on a galactic scale. It's so great.
Yeah, and funny thing is, I don't think George realized it, but when he ended this movie, he like set the precedent for like every other Star Wars movie to end on a shot that's like, stationary and wide. And the one movie that I guess kind of went against the grain was TFA, which is kind of funny. It ends with the moving wide shot at the end.
A helicopter shot.
Yep.
Yeah, it's weird, and
I
think if I'm missing the best ending shot, Empire Strikes Back is my favorite. That is just such a perfect ending.
You are right though. I went like with those wide shots that are stationary. Like we've been watching through the Clone Wars, and I can tell when it's about to end. I'm like, oh, that's the last shot.
Yeah.
Because like everyone's standing in a group or like doing some sort of weird pose, and then
I like
Iris
that.
is out.
In its own regard, Ryan did that with TLJ, and then he kind of pulled the wool over our eyes and went to the broom bowl. I like that.
At first, I was so thrown off by that, but I love it so much now. That's us.
Yes, it's very indie artist, like independent filmmaker. But yeah, we get to the throne room scene. A lot of great stuff happens there. Han's wink is just so him. R2 is safe. And 3PO finally looks clean. I love that. That drove me crazy the whole time. Like, they're all so dirty and grimy. And then this last shot, they're like polished and look awesome. And I think
buffed them up.
I think this final shot, of course, is going to parallel the Phantom Menace, but we might even get something similar to this in The Rise of Skywalker. I just can't imagine what that movie's going to end on. And I hope no one got spoiled for them. Really, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because apparently some rumors are around and stuff. But no, that's the movie, y'all. That is the movie. And one of the things we kind of get into with this is how did Palpatine influence the story? Y'all, this is the only damn movie he doesn't really influence besides dissolving the Senate.
Yeah, he dissolves the Senate.
That's it.
Yeah.
Only movie. And Empire Strikes Back, not so much either.
He affects the story in that he's mentioned.
Every other... Yes, this is the movie that he's mentioned. But
this is when he's like done.
Yeah.
He influenced the galaxy. He can sit back and relax a little bit. My battle station's ready. I'm just gonna rest, and then he loses it.
And then we cut to the
Yeah.
robot chicken scene, and of
Yeah.
course,
Talking
Perfect.
to Masamita.
oh gosh, I'm gonna watch that after
Love
this
that.
too.
So the questions raised when watching the movie, I think we already kind of go over it. One thing I wanted to bring up: do you think that Obi-Wan's home is going to be replicated in the streaming series? Like, I really think they might do a shot for shot.
Yeah, you would think so. Like, that's one cool thing that's why it's so impressive that they like from A New Hope to Attack of the Clones. It's impressive that the attention to detail really,
Yeah.
I think, cements these movies, this franchise as I would say the king of all franchises because it's just they leave no rock unturned and detail is no expense is spared on making sure it fits perfectly. So
Yes. Yeah.
I can only
I
imagine
agree.
they will like painstakingly go through each shot of A New Hope. Okay, here's this crate over here, and let's this wall art over here. So maybe if we pay
Yeah.
enough, Scotty, we can have him put up a Bombad tapestry or something.
I told my students about that today, and they're like, "We're gonna buy Bombad posters." I'm like, "Do you really want to buy Bombadcast posters? It's ridiculous."
That's great.
No, I actually had a kid, Alex. Funny enough, we had just put our stuff on TeePublic like a week ago, and I already had students buy like hoodies and stuff. I feel very like it warms my heart. I know, but I told them, I'm like, "Look, y'all, maybe I'll convince our principal to have a May the 4th day, and we'll all wear Star Wars stuff, and you can all buy my shirts." I'm like,
You can all line my pockets.
"You don't know it." But no, this movie is such a finite ending. I mean, it's done. It's done. I
Complete
know there
story.
was probably plans to do sequels and everything after, but it ends so. It's not like every other Star Wars movie. Every other Star Wars movie after this has ended with something, with an implication of something, even a little bit of Return of the Jedi. The one thing I think The Rise of Skywalker is totally going to answer, and this is like the last bit of discussion I want to get into, is 3PO's memories. And this is 3PO's movie. Like, really and truly, this whole thing is 3PO's movie. And like a little bit of Return of the Jedi. But this in particular. How much of that do you think we're going to see, Alex, in particular? Like, just the idea of 3PO and his memories possibly being involved.
Yeah, at this point, he would remember all this. So
Yes.
I do think that Babu Frick is messing around so that I was actually just reading something today where it was like he's supposed to know how to modify any droid, even if they have really tough like security settings or something like that. So
Wow, yeah.
he has got to be going in, and I think going to access memories, because that just seems like an easy and elegant way to tie into the prequels.
That would be amazing.
And I think, I really, really want them to, because the biggest thing we've gotten so far is Darth Sidious name drop.
That's it?
I want some really heavy, like, let's talk about Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
And what
They're
he
still
went
there.
through.
All that's still there in the story, and in our Revenge of the Sith thing, I get very passionate about like the only and before we close, I kind of want to hear your opinion because it's something I think you might find interesting. The only thread that's ever been left open in any of Star Wars, because the wrapping up of Star Wars is done pretty well. Like the only huge thread is the implication of Palpatine creating Anakin, possibly. And the whole idea of not just Plagueis, but the idea of saving the ones you love and cheating death. Like, I know it's going to get answered in The Rise of Skywalker because of Palpatine's return, but do you think there's any slight chance of just, I don't know, that Palpatine was the creator of Anakin, and then in turn, Palpatine's the creator of Ben Solo. And if he's going to talk to Ben Solo through the Vader mask, which I think is the situation, do you think that is going to be the ultimate turn for Ben? Like, I've been manipulated this whole time. I am the outcome of Palpatine himself. I am just another pawn in his game. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that's any likelihood, or am I just far-reaching with that one?
No,
it's pretty out there.
I really like the idea that Palpatine is haunting the mask or something.
Yes.
I'm trying to decide if that's enough for Ben to turn, just like him being manipulated. Because, like, Snoke manipulated him. And I don't know. I think that... I don't know. Like that, I honestly have no idea how the Rise of Skywalker is going to go. And I'm happy about that.
Yeah, that's such a good
That
feeling.
is true.
For sure.
Like, I could see that being the case. But I'm not confident about it either. So...
Yeah, I think this is the first Skywalker saga movie that truly is sky is the limit. Like, we know, like, with The Force Awakens, you could kind of see where it was going in regards to the marketing. But this movie, TLJ, unpredictable, yes, but it left with a cliffhanger, so you know where it had to go at the beginning. This movie is literally so up in the air of what could happen and what we could see. So... I don't know.
This is now the final chapter. You know, I mean, it was Return of the Jedi, but now it's like you got to think. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Something it's going to be something we can't even fathom right now. So I don't know, almost a little over a month, guys, and we'll be watching it. So that's crazy.
Yep, it is wild, and I guess to kind of close this out, I'm so happy that you can join us, Alex. So this was an absolute treat to be talking with you for, I guess, the 2 hours we talked. Thank you.
No, thanks for having me.
Of course. And it's keep up the great coverage, because I know right now if for anyone listening, this is right before The Mandalorian drops and Fallen Order comes out, and of course Resistance is starting to pick up. This is a crazy time for content creators, and I am just so happy we got the chance to just hang out for a little while.
Yeah, it was perfect timing. Will of the Force.
There you go. Yeah.
Will you exactly?
Seriously, thank you so much, though, Alex, for carving time out of your busy schedule. Man, I know it seriously is just like crazy, so we really appreciate you coming and hanging out.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Of course. We look forward to your coverage of everything, and you're the only way I'm going to get these comic books read, and you're the only way I'll probably end up getting a lot of the subtleties of The Mandalorian, but I am going to sleep tonight. It's going to be a trial. It's going to feel like Christmas, right before you get your N64. Like, like it's just, you just know it's there. But anyway, Alex, thank you again. Alex, if you don't mind, where can the wonderful Bombad fam find you? If they haven't found you yet, I'd be shocked. But where can they find you?
On YouTube, I'm at Star Wars Explained, and on Twitter, I am at Star Wars Explain. And you can also follow my wife at Molly Damon, who does the channel with me.
Fantastic.
Yep, they are both wonderful people, and
so next time we'll have to get both of you guys on for sure. Then.
Yes, or just Molly. I mean, screw Alex. Been a patron for Alex since February of 2017, and if you're not a patron of him yet, $2 a month, why not? Maybe when we start a Patreon, we'll whenever we start one, you can maybe switch to us. I don't know, but right now, spend your money where it counts.
This is our plan all along.
He's
Alex.
great. Yeah. No. But anyway, y'all, stay tuned. Our next episode of the Bombad Buildup is going to feature a wonderful writer for Star Wars Newsnet and a wonderful host of the Resistance broadcast. Yes, I am talking about a returning guest and family member of the Bombadcast, the one and only Make Solo to Happen, Johnny Hoey will be on the show.
Hoey.
So
just I always think about like Alex and Steve, like, or yeah.
But stay tuned. Empire Strikes Back. We got John on there, and we are so happy to be getting closer and closer to these sequel trilogies. We just finally have ended the prequels, finally kicking off the original trilogy, and Anyway, Jerry, what's up, man? Where can people find you?
Well, if you guys enjoy my just weird outbursts on the podcast here, you can find those in word form on Twitter. I am Jerry the Canon Junkie at the Canon Junkie. So go ahead, go over there and ask me questions. But if you got real Star Wars questions, go to Alex and Star Wars Explained. So, but you can also follow us at the Bombadcast or at Bombadcast on Twitter. You can also find us over hanging out with your old high school principal on Facebook. and all the other boomers just talking Star Wars, doing all that kind of stuff there. So yes, we still are there. We have the Bombad fam, a Bombadcast official group on there. So go ahead, go join that. We're trying to make a good little just family kind of over there. We'll do some special stuff on there sometimes. And I don't know, Scott. That's what. What can the people?
One more thing.
Well, what are you gonna say? I was gonna say, where can the people find you? But why don't you tell them what you're gonna say and tell them where they can find you?
Okay, well, you can get a T-shirt like my students have been purchasing from TeePublic. Just search Bombadcast on TeePublic, and you can get yourself a nice tee with me, Jerry, and Jar Jar's face on there. And I know how much you want that. Or if you want to get a pillow and you can sleep with Jerry, Jar Jar, and Scotty.
Whoa.
That's your thing. It's up
Sorry,
to you. It's kind of an odd. Maybe I'll buy one and I'll sleep on my own face.
You know what? My challenge still stands. I challenge someone to buy the most weird piece of merchandise you can get on there. Like get a tapestry and like for your over the whole. Like that. You just need to cover up for a little bit. While your mom comes back or something. I don't know. Like
or if you're in your college dorm room and you're like, man, I am just loving Star Wars podcasts. Let me go get a podcast with two white guys and Jar Jar in the middle of and just slap it here on my dorm room wall. Just what America needs right now. Anyway, I am delighted to be doing this. Keep the Bombad love coming. Remember, you can review us on iTunes as well. You can always chat with us on Twitter. And my name is Scotty Jero at the Scott Jero. And remember, everyone here, actually, Jerry, what should the wonderful Bombad people do?
Well, as always, guys, you should make sure you're watching along with us for one thing, because we're going into a lot of deep stuff here. But you also should stay Bombad.
All Bombad.